to categorize the philosophical part, or maybe just the artistry part, the part that is concerned with more the emotional aspects, the meaning aspects of being an artist and making art. And the interactions there are very complicated. But yeah, in general, I want to say that the concerns that students might have that you described, I feel them. Like, I think they're all totally valid. I see a lot of discussion around the AI stuff right now online. When I'm talking about discussion, I'm talking about online. The conversation changes a lot when you're having it in person as it goes. That is really dismissive. If students bring up a concern about it, there is a real totally inappropriate, like scoffing, dismissive, hand waving kind of like, oh, you need to adapt, or you need to think about it differently, or don't you know that this is how it's always happened. And I think that that's totally inappropriate. And I don't understand how people who claim to be, custodians of the art spirit and art teachers feel comfortable just dismissing people like that. And I just want to send out there to all the students out there that, your concerns are completely valid, and something has to be done, or whether that be a legal thing that needs to be done or a culture shift that needs to be done, something has to happen there by my estimations.
Well, I think there is that comparison to photography, to like realistic portraiture or something, and it is that like, oh, AI is just the new photography, and I think it is a lot bigger than that. It is. It is all encompassing to the point where I saw a thing recently where I don't know which company, but they were claiming that any actor, any background actor would show up for a day, they would capture their likeness, and they would have it for use until the end of time to use legally. So they were saying, we will pay for your likeness once and we own it forever.
Ridiculous.
Which is totally insane. Right?
It's just completely anti-humanist. It's just removing the opportunity for people to receive remuneration for things that are theirs, their labor, their time, their likeness, whatever. It's just
their identity, right?
The things that we would consider to be sometimes the most intimate part of ourselves. Of course, companies are going to look for some way they can just rapaciously scoop these things up for a couple $100 at a clip because they've got you at a bad time in your life or something like that.
You just don't know. You're not aware quite of what they're asking, you know. And I think the AI stuff is exactly that. Like, there is that, like, the cat is out of the bag in a lot of ways, right? It's difficult to look forward into a future where this stuff is not involved in everything, you know.
It's difficult, but I think it's important for us to admit that nobody really knows what's going to happen. Right? I mean, we, to some extent, yes, this is out in the world, we're all grappling with it, but I do believe it's big enough and different enough that we can't just be sure about what's going to happen in any way. Like, to go back to the photography analogy, I really don't like that analogy, because people would say, like, oh, everybody thinks every technology shift is this completely new thing. And that appeal to history is very cute and all, but sometimes things are actually different. Sometimes things actually do have a different methodology. And I think that this is not like photography, because when photography arose, no one needed to take a camera into an oil painting gallery and take pictures of the paintings in order to make the cameras better, right? They were parallel and independent technologies. And did it hurt oil painters? Sure, right? And things moved and shifted, but they were still independent. This technology, as it is not independent. It's different in the sense that it completely relies on us and our work to exist. And some people will just, you could say that as much as you want and they'll refuse to have their intuitions changed. But as far as I'm concerned, that is different. That is fundamentally different, and that requires a different mindset to approach it correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think being able to make those stakes in the sand and being able to acknowledge that something is worth fighting for and trying to defend, I think, is a kind of a weird thing to try to do as an artist. I mean, well, not weird, but it's, the impulse for a lot of people is just to sit inside and draw,
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, I think artists since the beginning of time, in the commercial sense, have always been taken advantage of. But now it's especially bad because their work can be easily replicated or generated in some way,
Yeah.
And I guess I'm looking forward into the future of what is the utility for someone who wants to be a professional artist of learning the fundamentals, Like what does something like art education look like when, again, AI, I'm familiar with how it works. I'm not super, I guess, educated or informed on it, but, in 20 years, is the act of somebody wanting to draw with pencil and paper going to be something that people do,
So it's totally possible that in 20 years, whatever we say, if it's being looked at through the commercial lens, if nothing changes here, right?
Yeah.
If we can't resist, if we can't get proper protections, right? If just everything goes dystopian bad and just the laws say, yeah, companies can take anything. They can do whatever they want with everybody's stuff, which to me seems very unlikely because it seems like such a crazy position to hold. But if it did go that way, and we look at it through the commercial lens, it's totally possible that no one will use a pencil for any commercial purpose. It just, the incentives won't be there. It won't align with a pipeline. It'll just be completely incongruous to the time expectations of delivering something. That's just absolutely a possibility. Does that mean no one will use a pencil to draw, that no one will use the fundamentals? No, I don't think so. I do think there's obviously other reasons to do it for commercial than to do it for commercial purposes. People have always been doing it for reasons other than commercial purposes. But the commercial stuff is a big factor in how people think about art and skills and virtuosity and why you would pursue something. Like, as much as there has always been a part of art that is just art for art, or doing art for spiritual or emotional reasons, and I have to say that me personally, I feel like I'm more with the spiritual emotional side of why. But as much as that has always been there, and as much as it has always been important, that has always been tied at least a little bit with the financial side. Because people, for as long as people have been able to do it, people have been dreaming of making their living off of it, of being able to make it their whole life, of being able to do it all of the time. And, if you live in a capitalist society that's anything like ours, then you know the importance of what you can project into the future with something on how you do it, right? I mean, at least as an American, right, it's everything. Yeah. That's everything. That's deeply ingrained in our culture. It's like, you're good at hockey? Your parents are going to be, you might be a professional hockey player. Like, you can make millions of dollars. Like, you're good at rock climbing? Well, it's rare, but people get sponsored. There's pro rock climbers and things like good at surfing, good at math, good at science. Yeah, good at art. And art happened to be in this position where it might have been the one that people knew the least about, right? It had the least exposure, right? Like, a lot of people's parents, you're good at basketball. They're like, you could be a professional basketball player or something. And basketball has a lot of exposure. Not the case with art, right? And we're in a position now where a lot of us, like when I told my parents I wanted to be an artist, they didn't have any frame of reference. So I had to slide in front of them. Like, here's Ryan Church, here's Craig Mullins. Like, if I work really hard, I could be this. It's like I had to show them what the future in art was, what the possibilities were. And I wonder with the AI stuff, like, would I have been able to do it if I didn't have Ryan Church and Craig Mullins to slide across the table?
I think the answer is no for a lot of people. I mean, for me, again, if I was an art student getting into art now and I saw AI, like if I was 18, 19 years old or something and I was deciding to go to art school, the act of drawing seems a little bit like, robots already do it better. The commercial side, the working for Blizzard or Magic the Gathering or working on a Marvel movie, that stuff seems a little bit more out of reach when the only thing standing between companies using AI and not is legality, you know. And I think it goes back to like a higher existential reason of like, is pursuing an art form with the idea of fame and money or having some sort of like external approval a reasonable reason to pursue art? And I think absolutely yes. I think that's integral to being a human. You know, we're looking for the approval of other people, and on a larger scale, the whole idea of art is a communication method. You know, it's like you using graphite, doing long graphite drawings is part of the art of doing it, when it would be easier on digital or something, you know, or ZBrush or whatever. But doing like flesh monsters in graphite is like pretty fucking sick. You know, it's cooler to do that the way you do it to a lot of people than to just like have a 3D model or something, or have like a you know, auto gen version of that. You know.
Yeah, well, I think different things appeal to different people there. How do you feel about these leaf blowers?
That's fine.
You're okay with them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the way anybody does their art, it's like there's going to be some people who would prefer 3D models over my pencil drawings, right? Like it's not like there's any objective like this media is superior to this media, superior to this media, superior to this media. The medias are, you know, sort of morally neutral. Morally is the wrong word there, but it's just like, I think we can all acknowledge that even in the discussions we're having around AI, there's just like this weird hierarchy already where it's like, if you did it traditional, it's like that's clearly better or something, right? But that's all just culturally conditioned. You know, that's not real. That's something we're making up. That's a story that we're telling each other. It's built around assumptions of grittiness and difficulty, and for the love of God, it's built around the assumption that just because something's traditional, you know how it was made, right? And if an artist shows you all the projectors and the tracing that they did, you'd be like, wait a second, you know,
that's
like
lame.
So it's all conditioned. It's all cultural. Oops, that's spam. Don't worry about that. It's all culturally conditioned, right? And I think that the cultural conditioning is very, very important there. And I worry about what en masse AI will do to the conditioning around art.
Well, I'm curious about what you think of the idea, because I talked to some AI people, and their whole thing is that the thing that they're trying to strive for is utopia, you know, where everyone, no one has to have a job, universal basic income, all that kind of stuff, which I think is a very dangerous path to walk down.
Same.
But do you have any thoughts on that at all, or like the pursuit of utopia?
I would beg those people to go to therapy.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. The arrogance to think that you, probably a young man for the record, should be an arbiter of what will be utopia, what values should be instantiated there, what's good for everybody, is, the is astounding. Like, just what are you talking about? I don't know. I don't know what has happened to them in their life, or what has not happened to them in their life, that they would hold that position without any concern. And of course, you know, I don't know how vigorously they actually hold it, right? You know, that might just be something they say, and then if you sort of hold their feet to the fire, they'd be like, oh, you know, not really, not like that. But I just think it's, as far as motivations go, it's one of the stupidest you could have. It just strikes me as ridiculous, and it's predicated on you really hold that worldview, but it seems to be predicated on the assumption that and what I like to spend my time doing, it happens to be the utopia thing. It's like, oh, isn't that convenient?
Very, very
That's
convenient,
very convenient that the thing you do happens to be the gateway to that.
Well,
I don't like it.
I guess for me it relies on two things. It relies on if AI can actually solve every single job, which I don't think it can never be the case. You know, I think that's a little bit too arrogant to assume. And I guess that's the only thing. But like, if AI can actually, like, if there is a future in 20 years where AI replaces garbage men and artists and musicians and truck drivers and all these things, it's like I I think that that's the ideal that they're going for. If it actually does all those things, which I think is a very, very, like a very, very tall ask, like an impossible ask.
And it, well, even if they think they can do that, it's like they don't talk about the second step. It's like, all right, we're going to undo all the jobs, and then hopefully we also control the government and can activate UBI. They seem to be operating from a position that if they sort of put our whole society in a full Nelson, then the government will be forced to enact UBI. And again, I'm just like, are we looking at the same government? Like, I don't trust you to force my government to give me UBI. There's many points of failure there, and I just don't. It seems there's way more ways that could go wrong than that could go right.
And UBI is universal basic income, right? Yeah. Well, and I think it's I think the AI thing, the thing that you guys are kind of fighting for, and the government is it extends way beyond art. Existentially, it extends to, kind of like what happens when all these jobs are replaced, and there's suddenly, at least in the art industry, like hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people that are out of an income and can't pay their rent. Yeah. And I think historically, like looking at the way it's worked in the past, is that people are fundamentally corrupt, and the shifting of power and all that kind of stuff on that scale doesn't go smoothly ever, really. But yeah, I don't know. I think thinking about all this stuff, it's strange because it does seem like the cat is out of the bag with... Oh, yeah,
Do you need to restart?
No. So it has a 30-minute record time, but it's connected to OBS, so it just...
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But like existentially, like there is the beginner that is thinking about their position, or their position as an artist, getting into all the stuff. But I guess professionals as well, it's like an industry disrupting sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know where to go from here. But.
Well, no one does. I do want to comment on the industry thing. It's like, well, first off, things in the overall culture with AI moved on from art fast, right? Like art hit first, right, with the text to image models, like summer-ish of last year. So that'd be 2022. Yeah. But then in November of that year, ChatGPT came out, and people's concern is much more focused on ChatGPT, video deepfakes, things like that, rather than art. Yeah. Art was an early part of the discussion, definitely a precursor to a lot of what was going to come. But people's concerns are spreading out into everything. The concerns are much more about identity now, right? Artists were concerned about identity. It was sort of packaged in there because our names and our lives are so intimately linked to our art. A lot of us, right? Not all of us, but a lot of us. So the identity concern was kind of built in to the art concern, but not in a way I think that the mass populace got, right? But they get that much more with things like deepfakes and all of the concerns around just being able to generate convincing videos and sound files of anyone saying anything. That is a much more graspable concern because it's just relevant to absolutely everybody, and the stakes are much higher there. But what happens with that is going to affect art. What happens with art is going to affect that. We're all just kind of waiting to see what's going to get either regulated first or what's going to have a court decision first. There's already some court cases percolating, but it's very likely that most of those cases are going to have long lives of long court cases, possibly appeals, probably appeals. So it's like we're all waiting to see what's going to hit first.
Well, and it seems like both sides, no one really knows what's going to happen. It seems so up in the air, and kind of, it seems like esoteric, and the views about art or AI as a whole there is no, I guess, that's it. There is no consensus on what's going to happen.
Yeah, just be cautious out there. Anybody who's listening, be cautious of anybody who claims they have, that it's obvious what the right thing is or anything like that. It's like, it's not. There's a lot of people striving for like narrative control and things like that. The AI side out the gate was very strong on narrative control, just starting from a position that we know what we did is fine. Right. What are you talking about? And it's just like classic tactic, see right through it. Of course, everybody wants the thing that's making them millions and billions of dollars to be fine. Of course, it's totally fine. Okay, there's no, it couldn't possibly be illegal. Yeah. And it's just, we've all got to see through that, and we've got to really focus on trying to build a world that we actually want to live in, and being willing to change the things that it would take to wind up in the world, and not wind up following, for example, the letter of the law into a boring future that nobody wants, just because a narrow interpretation of these words in this clause means this. It's like, what did we do if we let that happen? What world are we living in if we let that happen? How does that bode for our whole future if we're all just going to dumbly follow little interpretations like that? It's very small-minded. It's very weak of us as a culture, as a society, as a species. It's like, there's got to be a better way for us to have conversations and be definitive about what we want, and just say, well, nobody wants that. We're not going to do that. Laws are made to serve us, so we're going to turn things around and fix things. We can't wind up solemnly marching into a boring future. I won't accept that. Yeah.
Well, I guess on a smaller scale as well, like for the individual artist, I think that like somebody that might be existentially threatened by working at a studio or having their work replicated and can't take freelance work anymore, I think there is a little bit of an opportunity to go and move towards being more of an independent person in general.
It is an opportunity.
Yeah,
I agree with you, but something worries me about, like, I like the idea. Well, forget like the idea. I really believe this is true, that art practices can be anything, right? They're like art is very structureless, and there's no real objectivity in art, in my opinion. And that allows practices to just be wildly different from each other, and things can morph and flex, and you can wind up with an art practice career life that you're just like, the fuck is this? How did I wind up in this? This is totally surprising. And I want the studio life for the people who want that, for who that's what aligns with their temperament.
Yeah.
It kills me to think that that's just off the table. And it'd be one thing if that was off the table just because of an emergent independent technology or a market shift, right? Just like one day everyone decided, like, we don't like things made by companies. I don't know what would condition that. But it would be one thing if that was what caused that, if what wiped an entire useful, enjoyable field of art practices from existence was one of those independent, emergent things. It's another thing if what's going to wipe that out is the exploitation of the work that those people did anyway. Yeah. That's crazy. Right. That's just completely crazy by my counts.
Yeah.
I want that option to be there for people. Not everybody should have to be an entrepreneur artist who's just like completely independent and has to hustle and all of this. Like, that's not for everybody. It's for some people, right? I can stomach it to some extent, but it will only limit the amount of art we see in the world if the person who their temperament totally does not align with that sees no options that align with her temperament in the world, right? There's some artists who would only create art that will move us, change us, matter to us, because they see if they practice, they can do it in isolation, they can get a studio job, and they can have a nice life in the studio, stability, calm, they don't have to be this attention grabber on the internet. They can just, that all maps for me. And that same person who right now we get to enjoy their art either the art that they would put out there on the side or the way that they beautify big projects for something like Disney or Marvel or something like that. It breaks my heart to think that that person, if that's not on the table, they'll never go through the arc.
Yeah.
They'll just be like, well, I'm not going to be some loud person on YouTube to have an art career because I'm not that person, right? Like, so that will close the door to that art practice. And I just wish it wouldn't go that way.
I wish it wouldn't either. And I think, again, it's kind of a strange thing to observe, because I know that companies are developing their own algorithms and their own data sets and all that kind of stuff. And I think that moving forward, we were talking about it a little bit earlier, but the like tragic nature of life and disruptive nature of being a person is that sometimes things happen that are completely out of your control, that disrupt your entire mode of existence, you know? Yeah. And I think that, like, if somebody is spent their entire life trying to be that studio artist and now that whole future is a little bit disrupted, I don't necessarily it's the end of the line, you know? Mm-hmm. I'm fundamentally a pretty optimistic person, and I think that, like, life will find a way, you know? It's like the studio whole thing might not exist in the way it does right now, but, you know, I think that the act of being a creator and drawing and, you know, creating beautiful pieces of artwork will always have a place, you know? I think that the scale of being able to operate where you're making millions of dollars, it gets harder and harder in some ways, but the sustainability of it, I think, like being like a path where you don't have to be the content creator, educator, YouTuber guy, I think that will always exist in some form or fashion, you know?
I hope so.
I might be naive in saying that it will be around, but
no, I don't think that's naive, because like we were saying earlier, like, no one knows for sure.
Yeah.
No one knows for sure. So yeah. I don't think it's naive. I don't think we're all going to Frozen?
Oh no, so it keeps disconnecting. But it'll be fine.
Am I too close with my phone? Is it giving vibrations?
Maybe.
Frequencies.
Shit. I'm pretty dumb, so
don't know.
Yeah.
This is charging up. I'll get it away just in case. Or maybe just the USB needs to be.
I think my stuff is slowly wearing apart from the whole van thing, but
from just intense humidity.
Yeah, yeah. I'm on my own arc right now where I'm like trying to find my own path, and I'm not making a ton of money or anything, and I'm like having faith in some future. And I think just by the nature of being a creative person in general, it does, like, there are the lows where everything seems a little bit hopeless in some ways, you know.
It's scary.
Yeah.
Being a creative person is scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, our society has not built many guardrails for that. I guess. It's a scary thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It puts you in a difficult societal niche. Yeah. And weirdly, our society has developed a sort of adversarial relationship with people who want to be creative.
Yeah. Where
it's like, once you choose that or own that for yourself, there's a big part of society that's like, okay,
right.
Well, let's see it, motherfucker. Like, they're just like, they'll just want to put you out to sea and be like, they want to kind of like poke at you whenever you fail and things like this. It's just like,
well, I guess to me it was kind of strange to see how quickly artists were kind of thrown to the side once their thing was automated. Like, going on TikTok and seeing people doing, like, you know, they're prompt engineers or whatever, and they're like, oh, you know, it's as difficult as painting it from scratch or something, and it's like, no, it's not. This is way easier. And then the comparison of like, oh yeah, well, you know, we don't pay attention to like stagecoach drivers anymore and all that kind of stuff, and like how quickly people just kind of throw away the taste and I guess skill of somebody who had worked for it for 20 years, who had enjoyed all their work, and now it's all automated. So it's like, okay, now they're not nearly as important as they used to be, you know? Yeah. And I think that's just like the result of like existing in a market where like things are constantly changing and people's attention spans are very short, and people are relatively entitled to people's efforts and attention and all that kind of stuff. And
Yeah, I don't think I got that until this AI thing came up.
Yeah.
That all caught me really off guard.
Yeah.
I was very surprised by all that.
How like cruel people can be with, I guess, other people's work. And
I should have predicted it, because like, you know, what is it, Schadenfreude, like just the pleasure of watching other people be miserable and things like that. Like that runs deep in our society. So I guess I should have been able to predict it, but I have to admit I did not. I was caught very off guard by how gleefully people sort of dived into the idea of like, fuck artists, like, you know, we got them, you know, they can't do, you know, we've got this thing that replaces them. They were fools to think they could be artists anyway. It's like,
I mean, it's kind of like it's better to rule in hell than to serve in heaven or something sort of thing. You know? It's like
I appreciate the Paradise Lost quote.
Oh yeah.
It always
absolutely.
pleases me.
Yeah. 100%.
It's very counterproductive. Yeah. It's like, I don't know, in the big picture, why would you think that's a good way to react? Yeah. It's like, to everybody who is taking that tack and sort of gleefully roiling in it, it's like, so you fully expect to never feel ownership over a creative endeavor of yours, and you think that if you were to do that, the rightful inheritance of your efforts should be shame and mockery. Yeah. Like the same for you? Really? Like that's what you expect for your hard work and things like that? Yeah. It seems very counterproductive. It's also it just creates this chilling atmosphere around creativity in general, because it's just, what are you telling your children, the rest of the world, by that's how you treat people who have risked things and followed their hearts and tried to be creative, and let's remind everyone, in a field that 5 years ago everybody thought would be unautomatable, right? So it's not like they did it completely stupidly. It was a risk, right? And everyone understands the risk of being a creative and an artist, but they got sideswiped by something basically utterly unpredictable, except for like 5 people at Google in 2014. Yeah. So your reaction to that is to try to shame them unto the ends of the earth and laugh at them as they lose their livelihood. How do you not expect that to hurt the whole atmosphere of innovation and creativity that you ostensibly love when you're holding up, you know, the tech on some weird pedestal? It's like completely counterproductive. Ouroboros, dragon eating its own tail. It's just, I don't see how that contributes anything good to the world.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel very much like Cain and Abel, just killing an ideal for it being the sake that it's something that you might be insecure that you didn't follow that ideal or something. So you're like, oh, fuck that. I'm not going to even think about it. You know, but I guess moving forward, like, I think the ideal situation is something where, like, AI already exists. It's hard to put it back. You know, it's where it's something that supports and helps artists as a whole. You know, I have no idea what that looks like, but
neither do I. You know, I thought I did early on. Yeah. I thought I knew what an ethical version would look like early on. As I've learned more, I don't know. Yeah. I'm with you. It's hard to tell. It's hard to imagine. You can imagine them, but then when you try to imagine the support systems necessary to make them possible, and because we don't understand the tech completely, I mean, everybody, right? You know, these are black boxes. We haven't solved the interpretability problem with them, things like that. It's very hard to get serious about how you create the systems that would allow an ethical version to thrive. Yeah. You know, it's hard. It's hard to imagine. Yeah. It's tricky.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's like for a lot of people, they might feel like they're looking over a cliff or something, you know? Mm-hmm. And it's either a nice bed of pillows and cushions at the bottom or lava, you know? And it's, I think, like, the thing to do as a creative person right now, it's not to just keep creating and not just keep drawing. There is something, like, I mean, you're obviously trying to defend it in court, and you're being very outspoken about, you know, what you feel about AI.
Sure, in my capacity, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know, I think people can do small things to either prepare for the future or combat whatever is happening right now, you know. Yeah. But yeah, I again, I don't know what it looks like for the scary part about all ridiculous to me is for a long time, the future of, go to art school, get a job, all that stuff was a path that everyone could follow. But it seems to me that those paths are disappearing faster and faster. Yes. There's way more of new things that have to be created in the future for art as a career to be sustainable.
Yeah, we were already on a slippery slope with art school.
Yeah.
The art school system was, I would say, by my estimations, the art school system was failing more people than it was helping.
Yeah.
Most people who you meet who went to art school are deeply dissatisfied with their school experience. And for a surprisingly technical and limited job, like entertainment design, sort of broadly construed, like being a concept artist and things like that, when you're in it, it can feel very big.
Yeah.
It's not big. It's a very niche industry.
Yeah.
And it's a surprisingly technical and niche job.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that it has as much energy around it as it does. And I think that the reason for that is because it's one of those holdouts in a sea of chaos, right? Like to want to be an artist, to just want to draw and find some way to make that your life, right? It's a swirling maelstrom of nothing. No good advice, no guidance, no promises, no assurances, no guardrails. It's really difficult.
Yeah.
And that job has this branding, I'm going to say, but that's not the right word, of security, of well, if you could just draw well enough and get good at A, B, C, D, you could be a concept artist, and then that's just a real job, salary, have a good life, work on projects. Yeah, all those things. I think that did a lot of work for the energy around that sector of the industry. And it's almost inevitable that tons of people will gravitate towards it because it just has that allure, those promises that the rest of the sector doesn't for people who want to make art. But it was still, underneath all of that, it has always been the case, it's still art. It's still being an artist. Right. And so it was still actually always hard, always risky, and always precarious.
Yeah.
We just tried to kind of bend away from that.
And try to, I guess, make the path a little bit clearer with college and degrees and all that kind of stuff. But the idea of being a concept artist is a pretty new thing, like in the past, 50 years or something.
I mean, I'd say even 50 years ago, no one was calling it that, I don't think. And it was like
the 90s, I guess, so 30 years ago even. Yeah,
I would say that was probably, from my knowledge of entertainment design history, I'd say there was people who did other things like VFX. Before the 90s, there was people who did other things like makeup, VFX, that wound up being concept artists because someone needed to design stuff, right? So it's almost like a job you accidentally. And then, probably 90s-ish, you got the first people who that was their speciality. And again, usually it was from they had done these other things. They were prop maker on a show, doing makeup, making maquettes, things like that. Yeah. And they found that they had this quite applicable skill of just doing the initial concept.
Yeah.
And then they specialized in it. And then that slowly transformed into it just being its own thing. Yeah. But it's very, very new. Yeah. And still we're talking about, there's schools that'll help you do it. It's there's 20.
Right.
There's a few schools that will offer you a entertainment design degree or a concept art degree or a game art degree or something like that. And something like game art gets it's got a lot of other stuff in it than concept design. But so it's very narrow.
Yeah.
It's very narrow. And I don't know, as I'm in that industry, that was my big goal, when I was a young guy. So I love my industry. I love that industry. I have a lot of energy for it, and I certainly did when I was younger. And my heart aches for my industry. Yeah. If things were to go very poorly.
Yeah.
And it's always disappointing to think that you might have been in the golden era of something and you didn't even know it.
Yeah,
you know?
I feel like I feel like it's always the case. You know, the golden era, the golden age is always happening, and then afterwards you're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like Leindecker's age or something, right? Rockwell, you know, all
Yeah.
that stuff. But I mean, in terms of like the actual actionable items for somebody that's moving forward with this stuff, I mean, I know that you're never going to stop drawing, I suspect.
No.
For somebody that doesn't have an income, doesn't have that solid future, or even a resume to fall back on in any way, what do you think is the correct set of things to do? You know, somebody who's like a beginner artist or something.
Yeah. Well, first off, I'm just a guy on the internet, so don't.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely don't. I'm surprised often by. Sometimes I'll get emails that are like, "You said this one thing on stream 6 months ago, and I reoriented my whole life around it. And thanks, you know." And I like those emails, like anybody would. But I'll be honest, every time I get one of those emails, it kind of scares me because I'm like, who's the person who reoriented their life 6 months ago and did not have a thank you email to write?
Right.
Like it went horribly wrong for them. So I do worry about stuff like that, and I just want to heavily disclaimer with that. And that is part of being an artist.
Yeah.
Like I said, everything that we've done to brand certain parts of the industry, concept art as like, ooh, straight path, objective, right? A, B, C, D. That's not real.
Yeah.
Art, if you want to pull off being an artist, you need to be independently minded, right? Even if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, even if you don't want to be your own artist known for their style or something like that, even if you just want to be a studio person, that does still require some significant amount of independent mindedness, because you need to do the work up front, usually independently, to get good enough to get that job. And often a studio will hire you because there's something special about you, something independent about you. So first things first, I'd work on the mind, right? I know that sounds very weird, but so much of art creativity is a mind game.
Right.
Usually when I'm training students, workshops, one-on-one, maybe a quarter of the time might be spent on technical stuff like foundations, things like that. Way more of the time is spent on the mind. It's training the mind, and not because I'm forcing it to that, just because I'm open to it. And then that's most of the questions students have. They don't know how to focus. They don't know how to pick their schedule. They don't know how to structure their lives. They don't know what they should be concentrating on. Worst of all, they don't know what they want. Yeah. Right? That's a hard one, right? And that's just a core journey thing. But the mind is where I would start. Because with AI stuff and all that, the skills, the ground skills, who knows, right? I can't sit here and pretend to know what skills someone would want to pay you for in 5 years. I don't know, right? Let's not forget that the AI people also don't know what they might want to say, well, someone's going to pay you for prompt engineering in 5 years. Right. Yeah, fucking right. Like Auto GPT will be doing all the prompting very soon. No. What, all good. So I don't know what someone would want to pay you for in 5 years, but the mind game is probably much the same for a lot of things. Yeah. Should we check on that? That's
lately. So
all right.
But yeah, well, I feel like it goes on a broader level to existential, like faith in something, you know, where the idea of being an artist in general, like even if you want to be a concept artist, there are things that happen along the way that put you in a path that you never would have expected to be in the first place. Even if you wanted to be a Disney artist and you end up working on like Doom or something, doing super gory art, that happens all the time, you know. And I think that a bunch of the stuff, to me, AI is just another thing that is noise when there's already a ton of noise to begin with, which is your death, you know, the existential, like, oh, you're going to die one day. So being an artist is stupid because you should be a lawyer, you know, or you should be, you know, there might be a nuclear bomb that goes off one day, or you might die of COVID, or, you know, and AI is just another small existential threat in the face of a billion other different things that are very, very loud for the reasons not to be an artist or painter to begin with. And I think for me, like, the answer is not to, you know, just blindly draw and study fundamentals. It's to like keep drawing, but like keep your eye out for whatever is happening in the future, you know?
Yeah.
Like concept art is a new thing, and those people might have really wanted to be illustrators, but they landed on concept art in the 90s because that was the new job, you know? And now concept art is the path, but you know, I suspect that the thing that we are talking about, we have no idea. It would like blow our minds to know whatever it's going to be. You know?
Sure. Yeah.
And having some amount of faith in the process and being able to, work on your mind and remove yourself from the outcome, I think is the only way to, like, beyond AI, to become a successful artist. You know.
Yeah, I mean, to sort of address the existential stuff, it's like just to say it outright, like, no one should quit. I mean, these are serious concerns, everything that we're talking about, but the urge to be creative is, I believe, so important that there is almost no justification to not do it.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of thing than practical concerns about incentives and money and what you can get out of it. It gets tied up with those things very quickly. But for a lot of people, if you're not creative, you'll go crazy.
Yeah.
It will ruin your life. And I think that's the... Bless you, sir.
Thanks. Sorry.
Bless you. You sneezed so hard that the camera closed it. Shut it.
Oh, man. that is good timing, actually. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
To me, that's the real existential dread, right? Like, when people say that phrase, they're often attributing it right now to industries dying and things like this. And that's a real concern, because when an industry dies, people's families get destabilized, incomes disappear, incomes that they would use to a lot of people like to scoff at that. They're like, what? Careers get destabilized all the time. Fuck you.
Yeah.
An income being destabilized is the income someone would use to pay for medical problems. So it's not insignificant when somebody's job disappears.
And just figuring it out takes a lot of energy and time.
Yes.
You know, it's telling somebody to figure it out. That's like years of work to switch industries.
Oh, I want everybody who takes that tone. I want to shake them.
Yeah.
And then I want to say, come to mama, tell me you hurt you. Let's figure out what happened in your life that you are completely incapable of empathizing with the suffering of human beings. I don't understand how'd you miss it?
Yeah.
So the real that existential threat is real, but there's this other existential threat that just people who want to be creative, if you don't do it, it will harm, I'm going to say soul, right? That's the wrong word, but you'll get neurotic. You'll get depressed. You won't treat people right. You won't have a good foundation to take care of yourself and take care of your head. People go on these wild detours in life where they wanted to be a creative person. They're like, I can't do it. So then they'll muster all of this adrenaline and all of this vigor, and they'll go off and become anything else. And quality of that 5 to 10 year detour that they go on, it will be charged by this aversion to what they see as like a childish or petulant dream, right? And then inevitably they all grow out of that. They lose the adrenaline, they lose the vigor. They're like, shit, well, now I did it. Now I'm whatever the other thing is. Yeah. And I'm like, why did I abandon art again? Then they have to come back to it. They're like, where'd all these lost years go? It produces all of this psychic suffering to deny your creativity. If you have honest conversations with artists, you find this all the time. It hurts their life. So there's always that held up against, can I have a job? Can I make money off of it? Will people understand it? Yeah. That concern to me dwarfs all those other concerns. It's like, if you're a creative person, even if you go off and get the other job, dude, a really deeply creative person, even with the other job, with the stable life, they're fooling themselves. they're still going to come back to art. It's still never going to be enough until they're actually doing their creativity. And a lot of them they'll dump the secure job. They'll need to live it for a few years just to see what it is, to have the autobiographical detail, and then they'll dump it. They'll be like, fuck it, it's better to be an artist. I'm going crazy. I'm shutting down by not being creative. So that to me is always a reminder for myself, and to say to other people, it's just like, there's not a good reason to quit. The world has not presented yet, even AI is not a good reason to quit being a creative person. You've got to push. You've got to push.
I mean, if AI is the reason you quit, then you're just not paying attention, I think. Because, again, there is the, there's that, like, existential threat of losing your job, but then there is the, like, limited time that you do have on the planet where you are going to eventually die, and you don't have much time to do anything else other than things you really love doing. And talking to the people that I've talked to, I've met people who are billionaires who are depressed, who are like, why am I doing this? Why did I do this? Like, I'm in charge of all this stuff. I'm at the peak of society, and it doesn't matter to me,
Shit.
Yeah. And I think that the only thing that really matters most is your own subjective opinion of what actually matters and what actually brings you joy, because I don't think we really do get a lot of things to care about, Like, I couldn't force you to go work on a cruise ship and be a comedian or something, or to be a mechanic or any of that stuff, because that's just not your path and who you are,
Yeah.
And the fact that, you can go and, like, I talk about this a lot, and I probably mentioned in the last podcast we have together, but people go to an art school in the same way somebody would go to Mecca or something, or in the same way somebody would, like, go to Jerusalem or any holy site. They travel all around the world. They go spend tens of thousands of dollars on education or a plane ticket to Mecca, and, spending $5,000 or $6,000 per class at Art Center or whatever. I think it's the same part of the brain working. Like, you're working towards an ideal and having faith in something better than yourself,
Yeah, I mean, art produces a lot of really strong experiences in people. And if you don't have if you don't have like a religion or something like that, or some other spiritual practice that is instantiating peak experiences, like spiritual experiences, I think for a lot of people, art is the peak. You're seeing visuals are very evocative. They can pull intense things out of you. If you make art, there can be a lot of very strong experiences in the process of making art that really you can't get anywhere else. And then your art heroes quickly become your saints. Every time you sit down to draw, you're like, I'm praying to Jamie Jones. Let's do it. Like, I'm trying.
Sergeant,
You're like aligning yourselves with the things that affect you the most, and that the analogs are very direct. I would say, that all tracks for me.
Yeah. Well, I it's almost 12:30. So we should wrap up sort of soon. But
we don't have to rush.
Okay, yeah, we're okay. Go for a bit longer. I think the AI is just one of a long list of things on the reasons not to be an artist. And the advice I got from somebody once is, the more externally that you look, the harder it is to be creative, because you're looking for what other people are expecting from you instead of what you should be doing yourself.
Yes.
And I think it is extremely difficult to find that balance, because you need to exist in a world where you are making an income and communicating with other people.
It's so hard.
That attunement with yourself and your own personal taste, I think, is truly what I think makes a great artist, rather than anything else.
I would definitely advise everyone try to connect with that. I mean, people's external, the money, external validation, feeling important by whatever avenue you find, God help you, followers, subscribers, something like that. All that stuff is fickle and insubstantial. Like, it can be, when you're young and you feel like you don't have a place in society or something like that. It can be almost impossible to make somebody believe that, right? And to them, I get it. Like, you just have to go on your arc, right? You have to find. I forget what I was saying.
I forget too. Well, I was going to say, I remember last time we both said, preface, I think I'm an idiot. And the only thing we're saying is like we're pontificating on nonsense we know nothing about.
I'm definitely an idiot. Yeah.
I like pseudo-intellectual. And like I think that everyone should take everything anyone else says with a grain of salt.
Yes.
You know? I meet people all the time who tell me I'm an idiot because I didn't go to college. You know, I don't have a degree.
People say that to you?
Not in so many words, but people are like, oh, so when are you going to go to college? You know, oh, so when are you going to get a real job? All that kind of stuff, you know? And it's more like an expectation of like, oh, I'm just kind of figuring myself out, or I'm like educating myself or something. But the idea that I found what I want to do for the rest of my life, and if it directly contradicts somebody else's version of what they think I should be doing with my life, then people are they're going to say stuff, you know?
Right.
But, you know, in the same way that concept art, that path of security doesn't actually exist. I think it's the same thing for like a real estate broker or something, or somebody who works at a bank. Like it has existed for a certain amount of time, but it is so weird and random that there is any sense of security in that thing at all, that to expect security in the future in anything, I think is a little bit like take, again, I remember when the crypto people were all saying, oh, this is going to be the next biggest thing, until it wasn't. You know?
I agree with you. Yeah, I think, I mean, the security in so many sectors is really just recruitment branding. Yeah. You know, right. From where I'm standing.
Yeah. And I think that the dream of being a concept artist at Lucasfilm has sold a lot of scholarship or a lot of tuitions to Art Center or ALCAT or something.
Oh, sure.
But yeah, to over, like, I'm an idiot and you should only listen to me if you feel like it resonates with you a little bit.
Yeah, there's that. I saw someone put it as subjectivity is implied, just like that as a general statement everywhere. It's like I said before, I'm just some guy on the internet. Especially if you want to be an artist, you've got to be able to think for yourself and decide what's true. Yeah, what's the right way for you. You can't reliably just copy what other people have done. In art, you know, if you want your art to stand out, if you want to be able to find a little niche for yourself in the art world, it's by definition almost you're going to have to find some aspect that's not how other people did it.
Yeah. You know? Well, and I think it's, again, finding that balance, because that advice is like telling you to be your own thing, figure out your own path, but inevitably you're going to have to give up some of what you'd be doing no matter what, because you're creating art for other people for money, you know? So you are creating stuff for other people, so it's, you know, you're having to kind of compromise to a degree and be okay with that, you know? And I meet people all the time who have started businesses recently that I'm like, wow, that's impressive. Like, you can make a living off doing, like, drawing anime boys. That's fucking sick, you know? And that capacity to go and figure out a path to making more money drawing anime boys or furry porn or whatever, you know, is more existentially secure than any degree, I think, would, or like it, safe. It's more existentially safe for me than like getting a really badass resume and a degree and all that kind of stuff, you know.
If you like drawing furry porn.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Some people get backed into that corner.
Yeah.
Like, I hate this. How did I wind up doing this?
That's true. But there's somebody that their entire purpose in life was to draw furry porn, right? Yeah. And you know, they wouldn't be happy doing anything else. And
indeed. And it would be wrong to feed their work into an AI to take all of their commissions.
It would be,
for the record.
Yeah, but again, I think the optimistic side of me is there's going to be another outlet of creativity that does enable that job. Hopefully, I guess.
I think people just, whatever's going to happen on the outside, you're going to be best equipped to either deal with it or be emotionally insulated from it if you know what you really want to do on the inside, and you are doing the things that you like, and you are deprogramming basically the habitual overreactions to what everyone and everything in the world is sort of asking from you. I mean, I can only speak from experience on a lot of these things, but it's just like, where I'm at now in my life, right? I don't feel day-to-day stressed for money.
Yeah.
Right. Which is not something a lot of artists can say, unfortunately. Right. But after years of doing this and, just building up clients, building up different sources of income and all of this, I have to keep working, right? I have to keep working for it, but I don't have the money rumination is not really a part of my day-to-day thinking anymore, right? That's a degree of freedom. Yeah. That's like, all right, you're not worried about money in that capacity. And I also don't have a day job, right? So my time is unstructured, right? It's like I can kind of do whatever I want. And part of that is, running my business and things like this. With that freedom, what do I wind up doing? I'm still drawing the stuff that I was always drawing, right? I'm still drawing the stuff that I was doing in my sketchbook as a kid, as a student, things like that. The freedom, it's like, what am I doing with my freedom lately? I'm working on a big fantasy project with my friends. Yeah. That's it.
That's what you'd be doing anyways.
That's what I'd be doing anyway. It's something I could have done without training, without a career, without all of these other things that I've accrued. And it's something that a lot of people out there could do right now with their friend. Right. They probably have a friend who they've already done this, or they would keep doing it and all of this. It's like, if you're not just begging for approval from the world, basically, in all of these various avenues, probably what you want to do with art, you could do it today.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You could do it right the hell now.
Yeah.
So find what that is for you, is what I would say to people, and actually start doing it. Yeah. Don't put it off forever. Don't get lost in skill hell, thinking like, oh, well, I can't do this fun thing with my friends because I've got to be better until I can start that, right? It's like, there's nothing good over there. That's not going to pan out the way that you think it is. Do it. Do the fun thing. Make the projects that you've dreamed of making. Make the pictures that you've always dreamed of making. Do them the way that you want to do them. Even if right now, because you need money, you need security, you have another job, you need to do it in a more limited capacity. Like you can only do it for an hour or night or 2 hours on Saturday morning, right? Even if it's that, in that 2 hours Saturday morning, do what you would do if you would if you had money, if you had freedom, all you would do is open the gates on that and you would do it all week, right? Yeah. But just find that thing. Yeah. Find that thing.
Well, and I would say, like, don't ask for permission either, you know? And I think it's a lot harder said than done, but I think the thing that you're doing now is the same thing you were even doing like 15, 20 years ago or something, just drawing monsters and thinking of cool ideas and stuff. And, and
that's my favorite thing in the world. Well, I'm going to do it for money or for not,
I feel like a couple of things to that. It's like, once you figure out the money thing, there's still other like things that cause anxiety. It's not like any anxiety completely disappears from your life once you have resources. No. And then two, it's like, the most valuable resource you have is your attention and your time, Like for me, I feel like this podcast, I started it while working at Proco, and I felt like I had some amount of permission to do it because I was working for this big YouTube channel and had a lot of people, like I was doing other things on top of it. And now that I'm doing it now kind of more independently, it's become a little bit harder for me to justify doing it, And I think it's interesting. Well, and I think it's like I really love doing it, but just the time investment is a little bit too much sometimes. So I'm trying to go out of my way to do it because it is like I love it. I love having esoteric conversations with a really wide variety of people. Yeah. It's the thing I'd be doing even if I had $1 trillion billion or something. Yes. And trying to like be true to myself that like, and like another aspect of that is like I don't consider myself like a very like a draftsman with a lot of attention on me. I have a relatively small following, all this stuff. So it is like there's a degree of me wanting to get permission by becoming a better artist or like better artist, right? Because that would allow me to be more justified in saying the things that I'm saying, right? But if I waited that long to become a great draftsman or something in the way that I perceive a great draftsman to be, then I might wait 10 or 15 years before finally doing the thing I'm doing now.
Yeah.
You know,
that is, I can basically promise you that would happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm lucky enough to have a lot of friends who I consider great draftsmen, and the universal experience across the board is that they put it off and they get whatever anyone might be hoping for, this level of skill or something like that, and none of them, once they've hit that level, are like, now I'm going to start the thing and I'm so glad I waited. Right. No, all of them, they hit that level, and the universal experience is they realize it wasn't about that, and then they look back at the years that they didn't do the thing they wanted to be doing, and they're like, I fucking wasted my time. Yeah. What the hell was I doing? Right. It is across the board. They wish they had started it 5 years ago. Yeah. They wish they had, it could be anything, but to bring it to brass tacks, it's like, you want to be a comic book, you want to make a comic book, everybody who waits, well, the arrogance. I can project 8 years out. I'll be good enough to do the comic book the way that I want. It's like, even if you hit the level, it's never on time. It'll be 12 years out. Yeah. Then they look back and they're like, I should have started my fucking comic 12 years ago. What did I think? No one cares how good I am at drawing fingernails. Like, not a person cares. I should have been making the thing, right? Yeah. That is the universal experience. So it can be hard to believe when you're starting out, but definitely just get into it.
Do it badly, right? Well, I think I really resonate with the art spirit and Robert Henri's writing. It's like, there are two quotes. It's like, he went to an art school for 10 years and he saw students doing exercises really well. He left for 10 years and saw the same students doing the same exercises but a little bit better. Yeah. You know? And then I forgot the second one, so never mind. but you know, I think that act of waiting for permission, waiting to be good enough, all that kind of stuff. Like, if you're a beginner draftsman looking at, and you want to be a comic artist, looking at Jim Lee or Mike Mignola or any of the extremely famous comic artists, you're looking at the Michael Jordans of that industry. You know, even if you train for 50 years, you might not get to that level where you're, you know, like, only a few guys get to do that.
Yeah. It's a hard pill to swallow, but one that you should swallow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I know that, you know, George Lucas wanted Star Wars to be Flash Gordon. You know, he only made Star Wars because he couldn't get a Flash Gordon license. You know, and Star Wars has eclipsed Flash Gordon multiple times over. Yeah. You know,
fascinating.
Yeah, and it's like the act of, I guess, copying other people, trying to do things badly, all that kind of stuff, often I think leads to someone's own personal fulfillment and, in a lot of ways, ironically, like creative, financial success, way more often than the waiting for permission and stuff.
Yeah. No one's going to give you permission.
Yeah.
No one's going to. Who could give it to you?
Well, and
you know, there's no card to hand out. There's no certificate to give. The degrees that schools give out are not. They're not permission. Yeah. Right. There's no one to give it.
Well, I feel like for a lot of places that are more rigorous, I don't think they're doing this necessarily intentionally, but I think the impulse telling people to stay for 10 years for ateliers or something is actually a test. Like, you have to say no, because
it's like a Zen koan or something.
Exactly. Like, you know, like, you're good enough once you think you're good enough, and once you start training and doing all that stuff, then you're going down a different path, you know. And it's a totally fine path to go down, but it's you are definitely sacrificing something by doing that.
It's difficult because we as artists, we love art, you know, and because we love art in a very complete way, right? We love looking at it. We're like fans, but we also make it, right? We see the skill part differently than everybody else does. The public doesn't see the skill part. and artists they have more refined, like an artist can tell the difference between some of their favorite artists, who's been doing it for 15 years and who's been doing it for 55 years.
Yeah.
Where if you showed the public, it's the same to them. They're like, they're incredible. I don't know what else to say. But we were like, yes, we can make all of these minute nuances about, and it's just, that's just for us.
Yeah.
But we don't know how to extricate our love from that, from the other things that we want to do, like actually making the products. So it's very important for everyone to eventually grapple with that and accept that our love for virtuosity it's infinite, and there's no, on that scale of how far things could go, there's simply no stopping. It could go forever, and it is orthogonal to the actual practical concerns of how do you make your comic, how do you make your comic book, things like that.
Right.
We have to remember, when we're thinking about that stuff, we have to remember who we are as fans.
Yeah.
Because all of us as fans have loved things that we could say something else is better.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and we put blinders on for that. We like to forget that. We don't just like the comic that we know has the best art.
Yeah.
We like a lot of comics, even though we know their art's not as good. And there's comics that we like more than the one that has the best art. And there's comics that we like more with worse writing than the one that we know has the best writing, right? So when we set our product goals, our project goals, I think we have to lay to rest the virtuosity obsessed artist side of us and remember more our fan side that knows that there's a variety of things out there and that it's not just about this really not true apples to apples comparison that we can manifest. You just need to connect with people, and that can happen on all sorts of skill levels.
Well, and when you say people, it's not a lot of people either. For a real project to be successful, even something on the Disney scale, you need to hit 1% of the population.
Oh, dude.
That is the best selling book of the year.
Yes.
Or, movie of the year if you get 1% of the population.
Yeah. I mean, most creatives starting out, they would not believe, just because they haven't heard or done the research. It's like if you look up top selling graphic novels for a year, the numbers are astronomically low.
Yeah, it's nothing, right?
It's like a couple tens of thousands of copies is enough to make you like number 5 in the world. Right. It's like you're really not selling that much in these smaller niche things, right? If you weed out the big dogs like Marvel or DC, obviously, that are sort of controlling that sector, like new stuff and independently published stuff, the numbers are not as big as you would think to be a success and then get optioned or something like that. For screenwriters, it's like, dude, the numbers are so small. Like the number of new screenplays that get optioned a year is like every year it's like less than 20. Yeah. It's like the numbers are so much smaller than we tend to conflate success with in our uneducated minds before we've done the research. Even on the New York Times bestseller list, right? What's at the top of the New York Times bestseller, especially for fiction. If you look up, it's just, when you see it on the list, it's just 1 through 10, right? Or 1 through 20 or whatever it is. If you actually look up the numbers for the copies that are sold, you'll be like, wait a second. You can be a New York Times bestseller if you sell 50,000 copies of a paperback. Right. That's, in your head, you were probably thinking it has to be millions, right? But it doesn't. It's millions is for Harry Potter, right?
And then the manufactured level of that, where people will hire a company to mass buy their books in order to get them on the New York Times bestseller, but it's all arbitrary, Yeah. In the same way that like the Forbes 30 under 30 is all a marketing scheme or something.
I believe that. I haven't looked into that one.
You can pay personally to be on the Forbes 30 under 30,
That's awesome.
Which is totally, it's ridiculous,
Well, it's like, if I had enough money to pay for it, I must be eligible,
Yeah, it's like buying a Ferrari or something, or whatever. But like I remember reading Sargent's biography or something about John Singer Sargent, and it was like 2/3 of his patrons did not like his paintings. It's like the most successful portrait painter of all time pretty much, right?
That's awesome.
2/3 of people don't like his paintings.
That's all you need to know about being a commercial artist.
Well, it's like
it's all there in that statistic.
Like to have like a successful business, if you sold something for a couple $100 and you hit 1,000 people, that's quite a bit of money, you know. Yeah. That's $200,000, you know. Yeah. That's 200 people, or however many people it is. But it's like your thing, you know, you look at these people that you really admire and you see the idol of it and you see the peak and all that kind of stuff. But the reality of it is it's not nearly as glamorous as people might think it is, you know. And to become a successful, and it's part of the reason why I think AI is like one small potential thing, is that there's always opportunity for your really niche thing to be a business in some small way, you know. It just takes that like weird not asking permission. It's part of the reason why I really admire Tommy Wiseau, because it's so ridiculous that he did it in his way.
It's so it's so real.
It's so real. But I really love The Room, because it's like that thing has probably made him millions of dollars at this point.
Dude, it is hard to have more fun watching a movie.
Yeah, right. I mean, absolutely. Yeah.
You can try to knock it every which way, but when you watch that movie, or if you put it in front of people, you won't have more fun watching a Marvel movie. Yeah. I mean, you will. And
it costs hundreds of times more.
Dude, right? Is it fun? Is it interesting at all? I mean, that movie is. You couldn't fake it. Yeah. You couldn't fake it. It's incredible.
Yeah, and I think that approach to things of like, you know, something like The Room, obviously, for somebody that wants to be a blockbuster director taken very seriously, I'm sure that's, you know, world-ending, horrible thing to happen. But from just somebody who's a filmmaker, you know, having, like, I could not replicate that level of success if I tried.
We have to be very clear. The Room is some people's dream.
Yeah.
Some people, if they woke up in Tommy Wiseau's life, their prayers would have been answered.
100%.
This is everything I dreamed. This is the specific alley of artistry that I just wished I could own. I just love that I've brought people this much laughter and joy and just mystification and things like that. Like, it would, probably Christopher Nolan would be like, what the fuck happened?
Oh my God, yeah.
For so many other people.
Could you imagine if Oppenheimer was like as bad as The Room? And it's like,
well, at this point, that'd be amazing. I mean, it would suck for him, but it would be, people would write books about it forever. Absolutely. If Christopher Nolan turned it to Tommy Wiseau.
Well, and it might have like a longer life too.
It's possible. Yeah.
Well, I think it's like, that's like the cruel nature of, or not cruel, it's just the nature of being a person, is that things are so unexpected and weird that, you know, and on a more large scale, like we think, like we treat Star Wars or Riot Games or any of these things as the biggest things on the planet, but like I think something like a third or like half of the planet doesn't have internet or something, and it's like we think the internet is, that's it, that's all, everything, but half the planet doesn't even have it, you know. It's like, what a weird thing that we put on this crazy pedestal, but it's not even that important.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
No. I mean, we put it on a pedestal because we like it.
Yeah.
You know, but it's just not. No, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
It's really not a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not in that way.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. It's just not that serious. It's not that big of a deal. And I think being able to look at yourself and be like, oh, I shouldn't take myself that seriously. You know, like AI sucks. So this stuff is a little bit existentially threatening, but you know, it's not that big of a deal. You know, you can figure it out in some, like, well, again, it is a big deal, but it's also like, you shouldn't kill yourself over it or anything.
No,
you know?
No, definitely not. I mean, there's a lot of, there is a tendency in art amongst artists to take things very heavily. Yeah. And that will pay dividends in every kind of monstrous way, right? That is how you wind up possibly wanting to give up everything because of AI or something like that. It's like, no, you don't. You can identify it as a problem. You can push back, and it can just be that, right? You don't have to carry. It's weird that we can carry art so heavily. It's understandable because we really connect with it, right? But the angst the suffering. I mean, most people's artistic journey is characterized by suffering.
Yeah.
Which, when you pull back on it, is crazy.
Yeah.
It's dust on paper, pixels on screens, you're drawing goblins, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be so steeped in angst and suffering, but that's what our society conditions these days. Unfortunately, there is a way to pull back.
Absolutely.
And be more relaxed about it.
Yeah. Well, again, speaking from experience, like talking to some of the people that have had that level of success, like beyond the YouTube success, like being, CEOs of giant companies, it doesn't matter to them. They're like, it's like cool that they get to, have a lot of money and a lot of recognition. But sorry, my nose is.
You're all right.
Okay, I'm good.
You want tissue?
No, I'm good. It's stuck back there, But it's like they get the thing, but then they're like, oh man, I'm still anxious. I still have to exercise. I still have to eat well. I still have to, draw the things I really love drawing or create the things I really love creating. And no matter how much success they have, there's still that, basis of I'm going to be drawing cool gargoyle guys or something.
Yeah. I mean, I launched into the AI stuff basically right away.
Yeah.
And it was, in the initial navigating it, it was rocky, right? Like when I put out my YouTube video against it and, sort of...
got a lot of views.
Yeah, the wave of attention and meeting people and talking to people and giving some talks and things like that. It was rocky initially, as any change is, or just new, unexpected thing. But yeah, it's like, obviously I'm probably one of the most concerned people, right? Or else I wouldn't have done all that stuff. But these are some of my happiest days. Yeah. It's not ruining my life. Right. I am pushing back, right? And I care a lot, but I'm chipper day to day. Like it's just a thing to do. It's an important thing to do, but I draw happily. I really enjoy my life day to day. I'm very grateful for all of the things that I have, and it's not stopping me from doing any of the things that I want to do. So, again, I'm clearly one of the most, I would put myself up there as like, I'm one of the most concerned people. Or else why would I be going to Washington to push back and things like that? So if I can do my life happily with that stuff going on, I think anybody can, right? Like, you're good. Absolutely. Like, if you need permission, here's Steven's permission to still be happy and still be free and relaxed and do your stuff and continue as you were, while you think about this stuff in the sides. And
you're all, like, also speaking from experience, you're also equally as anxious about the future as everybody else.
Sure.
It's like, it's still, scary and it's still all that stuff, but it's still worth doing what you're doing and drawing and all that kind of stuff. And no one, again, anyone who claims to know the future of how things are going to play out, they're probably wrong, and you probably shouldn't listen to them.
Yep. But, no one can know.
No one can know, except me.
You know.
Yeah, I know. I just am refusing. I'm actually the embodiment of AI.
Yeah.
I am Mid-Journey.
Yes.
Turned into a person.
Yeah, I know. So we've had many discussions about this with the microphones off.
I mean, I'm here to kill you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It was a shocking revelation when you laid that on me.
Yeah.
But I thought it was important to get one more podcast out before my death.
Well, there's no way for anyone watching this to prove that this isn't AI generated. This whole thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
At the current state.
Yeah.
There's no fancy metadata we could put in to prove the provenance of these video files. So
100%.
No. For now, this could be AI generated.
No, it is AI generated.
That's right. Yeah. It was statistically probable that I would say this could be AI generated, when in reality, yes, the objective truth is that this is AI generated. And hopefully our statistical predictions of what word should come next have been convincing for the past hour and a half or so. Yeah. Hopefully we haven't hallucinated any facts that would give away the game. And hopefully the video side of this multimodal AI has done a good job at keeping our faces consistent instead of glitching sideways at random moments or having weird shimmering at the edges of contrast.
Yeah. Well,
Ignition. Ignition. 紙こぼり鐘を鳴らせばこの通りこれは9歳のレクイエムせーの触ったら逮捕口でペコ1234ごめんなさいが聞こえない粛清より紙でクイエム将来はお前なんかに好かれたくない泥水って口を洗えほっぺて会おうねさあおまわりさん連れて行ってもうそうしか取り柄のないかわいそうな日その姿親に見せられますかわあ、ありがとうお疲れ様ですドリドリ紙氷マジヤバやつらに用心あともうじゃないなら早く消えてくださいラリドリドリ紙氷鐘を鳴らせばこの通りとても優しくて素敵なお兄ちゃん楽園でほらねんねしなほら世の中にはこんなに気持ち悪い人たちがはびこっているんですみんな晒し上げますよ触ったら逮捕口でペコ1234ごめんなさいが聞こえない粛清より紙でクイエムはい獄中にいる皆さん刑務所ファンミーティングのお時間ですその腐りきった耳をゴリゴリかっぽじってよーく聞いてくださいねザコキモキモうるさい黙ってもらっていいですか嫌いですかわいそうダサ弱みっともなどうしようもないお兄ちゃんお姉ちゃんもう希望もないゴミだおめえらお物消毒110番固有結界発動粛清ういピーもういいじゃんういピーまだまだういピー
怒りの日聖なるインターネットに血の雨が降り注ぐ日愚かなロリコンを骨の髄まで浄化する一筋の光それがウイビームなのである
ういは全てを許しますこの世の醜さは集めて描いてみるよ真っ白なキャンバスが汚れて泣いているロンリー振り向いた少女は触った手をつかもう楽園などないからおっきなお友達のみんなへお前らが打ち込んでいる虚無には何の意味があるのねえ教えてようい全然わかんないんだロリロリ紙こぼりさよなら笑顔でバイバイピリオドをどうぞこの手で押してあげようラリロリロリ紙こぼり鐘を鳴らせばこの通りとても優しくて素敵なお兄ちゃん楽園でほらねんねしなそれが9歳のレクイエムせーの触ったら逮捕口でペコ1234ごめんなさいが聞こえない粛清より紙でクイエム
本当に気持ち悪い
Hey guys, my name is Christian and I like to draw, mostly in this academic figurative style, and in this video I'm going to talk about how the Riley method might have actually slowed down my artistic development. Before I start, what even is the Riley method? The Riley method is a system of drawing the human head and figure developed by Frank J. Riley, an American painter, teacher, and illustrator. The Riley method is based on the concepts abstraction and construction. For example, this is how the idea of abstraction might be applied to a reference to make the subject easier to draw. Using a basic circle and a center line, you can extrapolate where the jaw is using a line from the side of the head. From there, it's a matter of using the specific rhythms of the face to determine where everything else goes. Since I'm using the Riley method as a base, everything sort of falls into place. One of the most famous diagrams of the Riley method is a diagram by Fred Fixler, one of his students. You can see here, he used a line from the pit of the neck in order to find the abstraction to the halfway point in the figure. This line can be applied at any angle to have an approximate idea of where that point is. This is also referred to as a rhythm. These rhythms can be applied to the entire figure, and once you have the entire diagram landed, you can start adding construction. The method also emphasizes the use of value patterns to create the illusion of three-dimensional forms. What this means is delineating the values in your subject into a clear two-value read. The advantage of this is that it allows you to focus on the readability of the subject before being bogged down on the complexity of things like texture or halftone. Riley believed that understanding the relationship between light and shadow was essential to creating the illusion of three-dimensional form. Don't get me wrong, the Riley method is one of the best forms of drawing out there. The problem lies in how you apply it to your art. Take a look at these drawings I did while I was a student at the Watts Atelier. I remember at the time being extremely frustrated that my drawings weren't nearly as good as the teachers, even though I was using the same methods and the same tools. So how did that happen? Well, the Riley method is a really strong form of drawing for teaching somebody how to draw from observation, but it's really weak in teaching somebody how to draw from imagination. And because my imaginative skills were lacking, whenever I came upon a problem that I couldn't see or I didn't quite understand, my drawings would just fall apart. Put another way, because I'd only ever studied from life, I didn't really have any of my own opinions on how a drawing might be able to deviate from the reference and still look cool. The reason that my teachers were so much better than me wasn't just because they were so much better at the Riley method, but also because they were well-rounded from doing a wide variety of work. Looking at one of my teachers at the Watts Atelier, Eric Gist, he has some really great figure drawings, but then they're also heavily influenced from his work as a comic book cover artist. Since he has a very strong grasp on academic figures, he's able to render the anatomy and stylize the characters to fit the story he's trying to tell. Ben Eblin had a great video recently on how he doesn't use the Lewis method and how he leans more into using a specific tool for a specific problem. I highly recommend checking out his video. I'll put the link down in the description for you guys that are interested. The Riley method was developed during a time when traditional tools were the only ones available and print illustration was the most common way of having a job. As a result, using the Riley method caters to creating that sort of artwork. Nowadays, with more access to tools and a wider variety of opportunity for artists, there's a much broader demand for art. The most distinct difference between now and then is digital tools. With traditional tools, there's less room for experimentation and more need for precision. Whereas when the Riley method was developed, print illustration jobs were the only ones available. Artists like J.C. Leindecker, Rockwell, and Bede Schaefer all thrived. These sorts of works included things like book covers, magazine ads, and movie posters, which are all generally geared to 1 to 6 figure images to promote the thing they're trying to sell. These artists had limited tools and short deadlines, so they had to develop these sorts of techniques to actually finish their work. It's pretty rare that the image you create is the final product in the modern art industry. The image that you create is often used as concept art for a 3D model for a video game, or to set the mood for a shot inside of a movie. I'm not saying the Riley method is bad. I'm saying that the Riley method isn't the end-all be-all technique to doing amazing artwork. In fact, there isn't a single technique like that. Hey guys, before moving on, I wanted to talk about the mentorships I'm starting. If you ever wanted to learn how to draw, where to go in your career, or general advice on being creative, I'm going to be opening up 10 mentorship sessions per month. What's included is a 1-hour call per month, direct access to me over Discord, and written critiques and draw-overs. Being an artist is really difficult, and having a mentor can save you a lot of time and headache trying to figure out things on your own. Personally, I've spent a lot of time learning from other people through mentorships or classes, and it's been invaluable to my career and my life. Having someone to bounce ideas off of and ask where to go can save you years of trial and error. I'm going to be charging $150 a month, but if you decide it's not exactly what you're looking for, no big deal. I'll give you a full refund. A lot of this stuff is figuring out what works best for you and the kind of teaching style that you prefer. So if you are interested, head to my Patreon, which is linked below, and thanks, and back to the video. Finished illustrations were never my ultimate goal. My personal interests in art are more in line with the sketches of Carl Kopinski and Claire Wendeling. When I stopped training at the Watts Atelier, I was able to step away a little bit from the exercises that you do there. Those are things like 20-minute lay-ins where you put in the base for what a long drawing might look like. That's a 2 to 3 hour drawing. 5-minute quick sketch where you practice composition, anatomy, and proportion within a short period of time. And long drawing where you spend 2.5 hours trying to finish and render a drawing. Keep in mind also that all of these exercises are done on the same medium.
an 18 by 24 piece of newsprint on a Conte de Paris 1710B pencil. Now, looking at more of the kind of art that I resonate with, artists like Karl Kopinski use a rough gestural lane and pencil, and then he goes in with marker and refines the shapes. Because I was so caught up in learning the Riley method, I really never let myself explore other mediums or forms of drawing. There's a quote from The Art Spirit by Robert Henri that I really like. He was telling the story about how he went to an art school and he saw students doing these great exercises really well. And then he left for 10 years and he saw the same students doing the same exercises but a little bit better. If you're feeling like you're not moving towards your artistic goals, I'd encourage you to try and experiment more. From everyone I've talked to from my years studying art, they've all said that when they've deviated from a particular style of drawing and leaned into more of what they care about, they improve drastically. And that's not just because they have multiple inputs to pull from, and that's because they cared about it a lot more, so they had a lot more fun actually drawing. I think a lot of education tries to push the right and wrong way of doing things, whereas with art, there is no incorrect or correct way of doing it. The way you get better isn't being the best technical artist, it's about having the best idea of what you think good art is, which is entirely subjective. Here's another relevant quote from Robert Henri. "The objective isn't to make art, it's to be in that wonderful state which makes art inevitable." You want to have enough techniques and tools in your tool belt to be able to execute on the things that you want to execute on, but also not being so tied to a particular way of doing it to where it gets dogmatic and you can't deviate from it without forgetting how to draw. A lot of the people that I talk to that are great artists say that their artwork is entirely intuitive. They just do what feels right. They try not to think about it. As it relates to learning the Riley method, you want to learn something like that in the same way a weightlifter goes to the gym. You do it to exercise and practice the things you want to learn, but you don't necessarily make that the only thing that you do. In my experience, even something like recording my podcast has made me a better artist because it's allowed me to dive deeper into subjects I wouldn't be able to otherwise. Every artist I know has other hobbies on top of their drawings. For example, an artist that I really admire, Morgan Weisling, he sword fights in his free time.
They're already sword fighting.
Great.
Of course.
Every single movie.
Are we starting with sword fight?
The first
Is
thing.
that what we were gonna do? How's it going, Stan?
And Karl Kopinski rides his bike a ton. Stan Prokopenko spends a lot of time building his website and his business. And that allows him to think of new and creative ways of teaching art in his YouTube videos. For all these people that I've mentioned, art is something that serves their life versus them being a slave to a particular way of drawing. Anyways, I hope this is helpful. Please comment below if you have any ideas or questions. Also, like and subscribe. That really does help out the algorithm for pushing out my content. And if you do want to support me, head over to my Patreon. I have a couple of videos here if you're interested. And thanks. Have a good one.
Hey guys, welcome to Draftsman.
Hey guys.
Hello, Lexan here. Today, I'm going to be taking you through my process of creating a character design portfolio to apply to what would appear to be my dream job. Avatar Studios, which is a production studio under Nickelodeon, just opened up a position for an art trainee. Open character design positions for productions in the style of Avatar are extremely rare. In America, there's really only Powerhouse making something kind of similar. And this happens to be the style that I like the most and have spent a long time trying to create in. And it is really difficult finding fitting opportunities for it, so I had basically just given up on trying to enter animation, to be honest. Like many other people, I grew up with Avatar, so I don't need to explain why being able to work on a show that shaped your own childhood would be pretty cool. That said, with how desirable this position is, I know so many artists are out there applying for it. So if you're watching and you applied for this, I wish for you the best of luck. Everyone who applied, whoever gets in, I know you deserved it. I found out about this application on Monday, September 11th, and it is due Thursday, September 21st. So essentially we have 10 days to slap together a portfolio that's gonna bag me my dream job. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that I understand very clearly what they're looking for Alright, so I've gone ahead and made this easier to read and highlighted the parts that I think are the most important. In the end, I think they're looking for somebody who can easily adapt to the existing style of avatar. However, they still want to see that you are showing your unique artistic vision. So I think the main challenge here will be to stay in the style, but show that you have new ideas too. And the most important part about this application is that they've added a space for an optional portfolio where you can design your own character or environment based on Avatar or Korra, and they've linked some images as reference. So let's take a look at those. Looking at this, I can kind of make a list of all the different things I need in my portfolio. I would say a lineup with diverse characters, at least one child, one teen, one adult, one elderly person. And then of course we need expressions, and looking at what we have here, I'm gonna say for at least 3 characters. And then turnarounds to prove that we understand forms, I would say at least 2 body and 2 face. Then detail callouts as necessary. And then over here in the bottom right, this character has a pose interacting with another character, so I definitely want to show that I can do that. Pose / interaction. So this is my to-do list for the next week after looking at what they gave us. And yeah, on the application they said 1 character, but I want to do more because I simply don't have a portfolio for animation. And if my ideal project is Avatar, I might as well. The world of Avatar. It's so vast, you could design anybody from anywhere, so I had to find some sort of framework. So I started thinking about my favorite types of characters and dynamics, and one of them is the teacher-student dynamic. If you're like me and you're a shonen anime fan, you grew up with the likes of Kakashi, Jiraiya, Iruka-sensei, Guy-sensei, Yamato, and that's just Naruto. You know, there's also Reagan and Mob, Gojo and Itadori, Stein and the Soul Eater kids, All Might and Deku, the list just goes on. Anyway, I love this dynamic, so I thought it would be fun to design 4 pairs of teachers and students, one from each nation of water, earth, fire, and air. So after I figured that out, I started to write down some descriptions for each character, and with that settled, I did a little bit more research. I gathered basically every image I could find of character design references from Korra and Avatar, and also a bunch of references of clothing from each nation, and that's a wrap for day 1. I actually didn't do any drawing. Day 2, I spent turning my text descriptions into a lineup of characters, and I was pretty pleased with how it turned out. I was able to hit everything I was looking for, which was a wide variety of ages, body types, genders, personalities, and different student-teacher dynamics. However, I did make one major mistake, and that is I didn't really explore any other design possibilities for these characters. As long as they were diverse enough from each other, I felt like my first pass at them was good enough. I mean, for example, if you take the first character, the Water Tribe Grandma, I had in my mind I wanted her to be a short, stout body type character. So that means I didn't explore other possibilities. Like, what if she was skinny? What if she was a lanky, badass grandma like that? Well, that would be a completely different character, I guess. But what if she had different hair? What if she had different facial proportions? What if she had different clothes? I didn't really explore those things for any of these characters except for one later on in the process. So I kind of feel like I missed out on showing that I could give multiple visual solutions to the same prompt. I just think when a portfolio is too polished, when everything is too finished and it doesn't show your process of getting to the final, it's a little bit suspicious. Even if you are able to hit the perfect character on the first try, you should at least try to challenge yourself in order to show that you can solve this prompt in multiple ways. But also don't fall into the opposite camp where you're just like giving tons and tons of variations on things that don't actually matter. Like when I see people give tons of variations where they're just changing like the color of a character's clothes from dark green to light green, I'm like, what? That doesn't even like do anything for the character. if you're gonna give variations, you should try to redesign the character completely in order to showcase a new possibility about who this character could be while still following the prompt. So yes, this is a regret that I have, and I don't want to go back and do variations afterwards because I feel like it's a little bit disingenuous. So I'm just gonna take this L and understand that this is something that could count against me. Speaking of the cast, I think it's about time that I introduce you to my characters. Their story takes place a little bit after the war in the first Avatar series. So all the nations are basically at peace and trying to reconcile with each other, and these four have met at some sort of conference in perhaps Ba Sing Se or somewhere in the Earth Kingdom in order to represent their respective nations. The first set of teacher-student duos comes from the Water Tribes. My goal here was to contrast a very carefree, easygoing teacher with a serious, secretive, and conniving student. People from the Water Tribes usually live in a pretty cold climate, but since they're traveling, they're dressing lighter. They both have water skin flasks attached to their body in case they need to waterbend at any time. And our little grandma here is also carrying a bag in order to get some souvenirs for her kids and grandkids. For the student here, I was thinking of making someone very androgynous and ambiguous. Since gender seemed to play a very big role with the Water Tribes, I wanted to make somebody to subvert that. Like, just no gender. like I don't know if they're agender or non-binary, or just ambiguous, but something like that. Just don't perceive them on the gender spectrum, okay? For the Earth Kingdom duo, I wanted to contrast a larger-than-life teacher and a shy and insecure student. When I think about the Earth Kingdom, I get the impression of a very rigid, traditional, kind of elitist academic system, since there's such a disparity between the social classes. So I wanted these characters to break the stereotypes of that system. I wanted a chaotic, disorganized teacher, the type of person to really stress out his superiors. So I designed him with messy robes, baggy clothes, a lot of facial hair, and he's picking his ear to show that he doesn't really care about saving face. The student is this shy, easily frightened little mouse hiding behind oversized clothes, a mess of hair, and a big scarf. She would not thrive in the competitive environment that these schools would have, but I did want to show that somebody loves her very much and gave her a little flower hairpin. For the Fire Nation, I wanted to contrast a very tired teacher and a very enthusiastic student. My impression of the Fire Nation is that they're full of very intense, prideful, intimidating people. So I wanted to design characters that were not intense or intimidating. The teacher's just very tired. She's trying to be put together. She cares about fashion and makeup but just can't. She's got hair sticking out, eye bags, a slumped posture. For the student, she's not really the type of person you would normally picture to be doing firebending. She's got very friendly features and seems very caring and non-threatening. This duo gave me a lot of trouble. I was thinking, like, at this point, maybe I should just stop and focus on the Water Tribe and the Earth Kingdom and just give up on Fire and Air. I really was not vibing with the student design, so you'll see in the following days I do make some major changes to her. So for the Airbenders, we need to do a little bit of ignoring the lore, because after the events of the original Avatar, there aren't really any Airbenders except for Aang. I think in Korra, the harmonic convergence happens and new airbenders start to appear, but that's in Korra. So let's just do some pretending and say that time is very ambiguous here, okay? For the airbenders, I wanted to contrast a very zen and perfect unbothered teacher with just a teenage boy who's like, you know, a snotty, curious teenage boy. This kid is kind of fascinated about his teacher. He's like, there's no way anybody can be this perfect and unbothered. He's out to expose this teacher for being a regular human being. Alright, our lineup is done, but if we rewind to my to-do list from the first day, we still have to do expressions, turnarounds, detail callouts, and poses. So we are really just beginning. Technical skill does not equal substance. This is the second major lesson I learned while doing this, especially when I was doing the line art for all of these characters. I was starting to feel like I was using my technical skill as a crutch to mask the fact that I was not being very creative, nor was I taking very many risks with my designs at all. During this whole process, I was pretty focused on being able to hit the style, so I spent a long time tracing all the expressions and character designs from Korra. These were mostly done by Il Kwon Kim, Jin Sung Kim, and Ki Hyung Ryu. But then I was like, these guys, they're so good. But if the production already has access to them, why in the world would they pick me over them if I'm just like a more mediocre version of them? So I should try to put some of my personal style and touch into this project. And at this point I was not sure how to do this since I had already finished the lineup. The time for exploration was kind of over. So the only thing I could do was to go all in on the acting, the interactions, the expressions, and hope that I was able to bring some substance in that area. So if you're a student or somebody trying to get into character design, I would prompt you to, yes, develop your technical skills, but those skills are just there to ensure that anything you make is fundamentally sound. The skills themselves are not the art. I finished my lineups on Wednesday, September 13th, and then I spent the next 5 days trying to infuse some substance into my characters. As somebody who does a lot of comics, this is my favorite part of character creation. My favorite part about Avatar was how much personality every single character had. Everybody, even the background characters or even the most deranged, traumatized characters, all had their own charms and were very entertaining to watch interact with each other. So my main goal with my portfolio was to be able to capture the same amount of down-to-earth personality that was present in Avatar. The most dire case of this was the Fire Nation duo. Like I said in a previous part of the video, I just really wasn't vibing with them at all. And I was trying to do some expressions and turnarounds for the student's face just to see if I could try to like her better, but it just didn't work. I think there was something wrong with the pose. It was too stiff and too awkward, and the forms were looking flat, and it just wasn't working for me. So I just started from scratch, and I decided to do a little bit more research, pull up some references from Southeast Asian sources on Pinterest, and just try to put more thought into her design specifically. I'm much more pleased with her new look, and I'm really glad I decided to do it over again. The next step was to develop the relationship between these two ladies. My initial idea was to make the student like a big fan of the teacher, somebody who is really enthusiastic and has a lot of energy towards a teacher who is just really tired and doesn't have time for her. But the more I drew them together, the more I started to think that their relationship was more equal. Maybe they have some shared hobbies like fashion and makeup. I even thought about what if the teacher was like actually teaching the student how to use firebending for beauty, and they were like in some sort of like cosmetic school or something like that. I am quite fond of the pose on the right where the teacher is helping her student dry her hair using some firebending. For the Water Tribe duo, this was the first page that I technically finished, and before I decided to go all in with the interactions and acting. So this page is much more technical, showing that I can rotate an old person's face, that I can draw expressions for her and give details on what her old person hand looks like, and give detail shots on how the student's water skin flask is tied to their body. It's not a full turnaround, but I've heard of many character designers say this, and I kind of agree that turnarounds are not necessarily that important in a portfolio. It is part of the job, but it is also just like a technical exercise, and if you show that you can draw and rotate forms in your other drawings, then I don't really think turnarounds are that necessary. Unless your character has some special design going on in the back that needs to be detailed, I don't really think like a 4 to 8 point turnaround is really necessary. The Earth Nation duo is my absolute favorite out of all of the ones I did. I just think they're so silly, and these two changed a lot while I was trying to do expressions and interactions for them. I think the major change is that the teacher went from somebody who appears to not really care for a student that much to someone who definitely cares a lot, almost like a dad would care for his daughter. In the beginning, I kind of wanted to portray the student as somebody who is really overwhelmed easily, somebody kind of like Bocchi from Bocchi the Rock, who has all these crazy expressions and is always anxious and crying, but the more I drew her, the more I realized this isn't really who she is. This is just a little girl who is a little shy, but is not being mistreated or grieved on by anybody, especially not her teacher. For the airbenders, I will admit every time I got to them, I was like running out of steam after working on 6 other characters. So I was really just doing my best to get through it. And I think you can kind of tell, but hopefully I still managed to portray some unique personalities with these 2 as well. I don't know what it is about bald characters, but it just really makes me want to draw their eyes like a blob. Maybe it's the One Punch Man influence, I don't know. But I did want to portray this like preteen, early teens boy as, you know, kind of like what Sokka was like in the very beginning. A little bit sleazy, a little bit show-offy, kind of a prankster. And I was like, yeah, I think a few full body poses and 1 interaction. I just need to get through this and I'm done. So, not my strongest, but it's there. Hello, it is Monday, September 18th. I have 2 days until the deadline, but I have pretty much finished all 4 of the main sheets I want to do. And I've put them on my website, and I think they look pretty good next to each other. But there's still some more things I want to do. I want to do some rough work, like do some sketchy pieces where the characters are interacting like between each other. Like maybe the Earth Nation is interacting with the Water Nation, and it's just more clear like how they're under the same theme. Aside from this, I just uploaded my new video and I really enjoy reading the comments on this one. I'm glad that it is helping some people. Thank you for more than 200k on my last video. Thank you for 8,000 subscribers. And also, thank you for 50k on Instagram. So thank you for a lot of things. Oh, additionally, I also just got our first Patreon supporter, Hi Fish, who is not somebody I already know. So thank you so much, Fish. I really appreciate it. Feeling like we kind of accomplished a lot today. So that's why I wanted to give a real life update. Now, originally, I had wanted to do some combat poses. If you're gonna design benders, you probably want to show that you can draw them bending the elements, right? But I got really overwhelmed with like how to make this cool, how to make this unique. I want to combine all these dance moves into it because I like dance. What angle do I use? And then it just all became really overwhelming, and I realized like this actually is not substance. This doesn't tell me anything new. The important thing is to give an overall story for who they are. And it's at this point I realized that I was designing students and teachers for a program called Avatar Academy, and I was like, wow, things are coming full circle. I designed Avatar Academy characters for Avatar Academy. So anyway, at this point I was running out of time and patience, so I was like, I just need to whip something up for a banner. Let's get 1 character from each nation interacting. Let's make sure there's just an overall visual flow here and make sure everybody's using their elements, and we're good. I did have a lot of ambitious plans for the extra things I was gonna do, but then I was like, I just got tired. It's like, I think I did enough. I'm going to do this and then call it a week and a half and just submit. And I was also getting a little frustrated because in order to do this, I wanted to show a style that I wasn't using in the character sheets. So I pulled out a book by Sophie Lee, who is one of my favorite gesture and character designers, and used her explorations as inspiration and reference. And I was like, oh my god, I'm doing it again. I'm just copying somebody again. Like, why can't I just explore a concept using my own ideas? It's so easy for me just to pull up a template over how I want things to look instead of like trying to invent them myself. But that's just kind of how I am. This is something I'll be working on in the future. And so despite my trials and tribulations, I finished the banner, spent some time writing my cover letter, and then submitted my application. Thanks for following along this process with me. As of recording still no result, I guess I can let you guys know in the comments or something. But regardless, I'm glad I finally did this and made a bit of a portfolio for the style of animation that I like the most. Whether or not I get the job, I'm gonna keep making videos. If you would like to support me, you can check out my Patreon or just subscribe. Or don't subscribe and let fate put my videos on your home screen. Alright, I'll see you in the next one.
Hey guys, I did a poll on YouTube and you guys told me I should do a video on defeating or destroying art block. I'm having trouble thinking of ideas for this video, so I think in the spirit of the video I'm just gonna start and, I don't know, just make something. Yeah, so I guess my thoughts on art block. To me, the whole idea of art block is something that's way more about gas not being in the tank versus something that's standing in your way. I think nowadays a lot of people have a lot of reasons not to want to draw. To me,
we are going to have to
that I worked on that just got released this year, Blue Eye Samurai, just got renewed for a second season. I was working on the show back in 2021, but it was a show where I learned a lot, especially when it came to filmmaking and storyboarding. So in this video, I'd like to talk about that. Hey guys, it's Taniko Pintua, and today I'd like to talk about what my experience was like working on Blue Eye Samurai as a storyboard artist. Now, for those who don't know, Blue Eye Samurai is a miniseries, an adult animated show that follows Mizu, a half-Japanese, half-white individual who roams around Japan seeking revenge for her overall existence. In the show, Mizu is often discriminated because of her ethnicity being a half-breed, as well as having a personal discovery of what it means to be a samurai while challenging her womanhood. It has sex, violence, and other adult themes. So what made Blue Eye Samurai a challenge to work on for me? So as someone who comes from, children's animation, family animation, Blue Eye Samurai is my first serious adult animation. And not only that, they were heavily following live action rules. A lot of the leading directors come from a live action background, such as Jane Woo and a few others. Now, of course, there were other challenges that I had to go through with this production, but for this video, I'm really just going to talk about storyboarding and what made it so different from my other experiences. Blue Eye Samurai was a show that highly focused on live action rules, so we really had to be conscious of how many cameras there were, how many shots we could use, and treating the camera as a tangible object. Like refreshing myself on live action, film terminology, and how lenses actually worked. In animation, there's a lot more freedom to break some rules. Like, sure, there are restrictions, there's certain circumstances and limitations that you need to work with. In this case, I really had to think about the camera. So when I board, let's say, a really stylistic graphic shot, I have to really think about how I could replicate that similar effect with the camera, thinking about the lens, where the camera should actually be placed in the set, and how to achieve that without just changing the size of things. I really had to think about placing a camera at various locations within the set. Luckily, the set was already built in CG. Now, there were so many times I had to reboard the scene for many different reasons, but I think one reason I could point out that made this production quite different from every other production that I've worked with was that it felt like I was boarding scratch footage. So in live action, there's usually like multiple cameras placed at different places and different angles, shooting the same scene at the same time. And of course, there would be multiple takes and footage. Because one advantage that live action has that animation doesn't really have is that spontaneity. In animation, I'd have to redraw it. And depending on the style of animation, there's way too many steps for a spontaneous acting choice or an improvised change. With live action, you have freedom for alternate takes. And that's all scratch footage that you can use. That footage then goes to editing, where different footage is cut together, organized differently, some are taken out, some are kept in, for the purpose of storytelling through film. When it came to storyboarding, it was similar to that, where we boarded a sequence multiple times in a different atmosphere, in a different angle, in a different tone, and just sent all that to the editor to sort of play around with it. Some were scrapped, some were taken in, or some new stuff was improvised. Now, I'm not saying that live action is wishy-washy, very loose, just spontaneous all the time, because they have a lot of circumstances working against them, such as production cost, crew cost. Like, cameras are expensive, and trying to figure out camera moves, you have to think about the tracks, the boom, and other things for the camera to be able to move. So because some of the higher ups on that production came from live action, they really emphasized about choosing shots that really mattered. So the biggest thing that I learned from working on a show like Blue Eye Samurai is being way more decisive and thoughtful about my shot choices. And that really pushed my cinematic language and compositions. The next thing that I want to talk about is that it has a very specific style of cinematic language. Our references were usually Breaking Bad, Stanley Kubrick, David Fincher, and a lot of the show has a lot of, very still cameras, not a lot of shot changes, and actually really long takes. There were some graphic shots I had to figure out, like a really abstract close-up of a teapot or a really down shot of a group of soldiers forming an image. Like, things got very graphic, and I had to figure out how I would be able to do that using an actual physical set with a camera, and thinking about the camera as a tangible thing with lenses in mind, like I said earlier. And usually that stuff is figured out by the previs. It's not really a storyboard artist's job to figure out that technical stuff, but that was stuff that we had to think about for the show. So let's talk about the storyboards themselves. What do they look like? How did I go about boarding them? And how
Did Disney use artificial intelligence to write their latest movie? Technically, Allison Moore and Frozen director Jennifer Lee are credited as the screenwriters for this project. But having just watched the movie myself, there's a distinct feeling that humans had nothing to do with this project. Both financially and critically, Wish is bombing, and I think a lot of that has to do with just how soulless and algorithmic the film comes across. So, for legal reasons, I'm not making any official accusations, but these are the 3 reasons that Disney's Wish feels like it was written by AI. First, we need to talk about the plot. For context, Disney as a company is officially 100 years old as of 2023. Wish was meant to be a sort of centennial celebration that paid tribute to the company's artistic history. Even the title is a reference to the Megacorp's theme song, When You Wish Upon a Star. Unfortunately, rather than paying homage to the beloved classics that made Disney what it is today, the film actively relies on overdone Disney tropes without recapturing any of their magic. The story, like the title suggests, revolves around wishes. Chris Pine's character rules over an island in the Mediterranean. In order to live on the island, everyone has to give him their greatest wish when they turn 18, forgetting their wish in the process. Unfortunately, the main character soon learns that Magnifico only does this if he believes the wish is safe and beneficial to his kingdom, meaning that most of them are forgotten about completely. Asha, the protagonist, doesn't think that this is fair and sets out on a mission to return people's wishes to them. On paper, this might sound like a solid story, but much like when AI tries to make a person but can't get their hands right, the devil is in the details. This movie claims to be about wishes, but we don't actually explore what these mean for the people of Rosa. Asha believes that taking away people's wishes removes the best parts of who they are, but that doesn't really seem to be a problem. She has one friend who's been kind of depressed since giving Magnifico his wish, but everyone else in the kingdom seems to be legitimately happy and thriving. Maybe if we saw that people in Rosa lack ambition or hope, Asha's concerns would feel more valid. But the world we are introduced to in the beginning of the movie doesn't feel like it really needs to change all that much. Even Asha's grandfather, whose wish is the whole reason Asha challenges Magnifico in the first place, seems to be doing just fine without his wish. Sure, we see that he's disappointed when his wish isn't granted at the last ceremony, but Asha never thought that there was anything missing from him up until the end of Act 1. In a film like Tarzan, the movie revolves around family and Tarzan's need to prove himself. And this makes sense because Kerchuk initially sees Tarzan as an unworthy outsider.
Kala, look at him. He will never be one of us.
That's something that clearly needs to change. And when Kerchuk finally accepts Tarzan as a worthy son, things are in a better state than when the film began.
Friends deal breakers. Is someone who doesn't have a job.
Yeah, someone who doesn't have a job is probably. You don't have a job?
Oh, you gotta scream like a gargoyle, my God.
You called her a gargoyle? That's crazy. I've actually worn the male version of a dress, whatever they're called. Like,
Hi.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. My name's Joaquin.
A lot of people are interested in outer space, and I'm interested in inner space.
Okay, tell me more.
I think I need to drink for this one. I think we're gonna have some alcohol.
You did.
Yeah.
You did all that for that? In a hole, ya inner space, ya inner thing, ya box them, ya tush.
People look, they see space and the stars, and they see all this stuff, and they're like really turned on by it. And I'm kind of disgusted by the negligence of the use of money for outer space. How's your weekend been so far?
Been pretty good. I celebrated my best friend's birthday yesterday.
Oh, Taurus?
Yes.
Okay. I saw a murder last night.
Okay.
Oh, attempted murder. I was filming a video in California, and I saw a man get shot in the neck. And now we're trying to sell it to a news station. Okay. It's absolutely batshit crazy. Yeah.
Okay. How's your day? Oh, I took out my dog off at work. Great. I watched the genocide happen.
I think she's weirded out by me.
So why did you press on me?
I knew you were not interested. Right off the bat.
Just because you thought that I wasn't interested, that's why you didn't want to continue conversation?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to get married and have like 100 kids, so like, why waste each other's time, right?
I respect that. I hope you have fun on your next
Thank
date.
you.
What's your name?
I'm Ida.
I'm Dominique.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So, how old are you?
I'm 26. How old are you?
I'm 32.
What are you two looking for in a relationship right now?
I'm a tender person, man. I need somebody to be tender with me, man. I used to be out in the streets.
Was you a hoe?
I never been. I never been on got a large number. Yeah, what about you?
But she asked the question. Yo, I was in these streets. You were a whore. And he went, no, don't say it like that. I wasn't like a high number.
I want someone same as you, like kind of like caring, but also like grow together. Just don't be on your sex shit. Like I really just don't like that kind of stuff. I've met grown ass men that are children. If you're a child, don't fuck with me.
I mean, how much do you understand what they're going through?
If you're in a predicament where you're trying, that's not, I will never jump that. But if you're a person who chooses to sit on your ass and be in home all fucking day while someone's working, oh, I can't find out because you're just looking on your phone. No, get up off your ass, do some shit. You can find other jobs, like, you know, like work through it. Go ahead, that's fine.
And and I'll tell you why I did it. I think that you have to come to a term of forgiving people for not being their best selves. And that's not me thinking you haven't.
Ida, was that surprising?
Yeah, I kind of liked you a little bit. Anyways, nice to meet you.
That's it. Time out. What was your name again?
Yaya.
Yaya? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
When I come up in the street and being a total asshole, got you on the check. When you come in this shit and come with disrespect, bust that chick out there.
I wouldn't call anybody.
You would what?
I wouldn't catcall. I've never catcalled somebody. But if some girl's walking by me and she goes, "My name's Yaya," I'm like, "Ya." Is that bad?
That's not catcalling.
Okay. That's just a Busta Rhymes.
That's Yaya calling.
Yeah. sorry. That's so childish. But yeah, I like Yaya. It's a beautiful name.
No. Mine would be, I like the water. I like to look at the water.
Do you wakeboard or wake surf or? Okay.
I just like to like.
Would you
chill
try
at
it?
I would. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm down to bust my ass. I don't know if the box wants to say it, but I don't really like city girls.
City girls. Okay.
Yeah, I think like the stipulations that come along with that is kind of dumb.
Like a New York City girl, like
no.
No. Like what? Okay. So what do you mean?
City girls kind of like.
No, that's not what I. How?
Yeah, you can't be using hip hop references with people that casually. Okay.
Yeah, it's not everybody that's on the same level.
Yeah, I'm one of the city boys.
You don't like
I
people.
love going to the city. Mainland's amazing. I'm just not about that thug life. Yeah, we don't like criminals here either. No, I mean I ain't about that. All right, there we go.
Okay, so what do you mean?
City girls kind of like fly me out. Do this. Like.
Wait, I'm sorry. Why is that?
They don't.
She's like, wait, what? Yeah. I want to see her confusion. This is like when red pill people meet normal people, and they're like, a high value man can cheat. I'm just like, what the fuck are you talking about? This is this moment. Let me watch.
Why is that a city girl?
Like, it's not that. Not just that. Let me finish.
Okay.
Like, the intentions is not to actually get to know. You just have this standard that is not understanding.
Okay.
I felt like this came out of nowhere. The girl's like, do you like wakeboarding? Would you be down? He's like, yeah, I'm down to try new stuff. And he just out of nowhere brought up like,
I don't know if the box wants to say it, but I don't really like city girls.
Did that not come out of nowhere? And she looks confused too. Yeah, because he kind of came out of nowhere. He's like, I don't want to be with a gold digger. It's like, and she still doesn't understand the reference to city girls.
Yes.
She doesn't know it's hip hop.
Yes.
So she thinks that he thinks
that he doesn't
that's
like
women from the
girls.
city
Yeah.
are gold diggers.
Yeah.
Hey, yo, hold this out.
There's levels to this shit, but yeah, you didn't get
Some of these people live online so much, or they don't interact with other communities that they don't know how to talk about this stuff.
It's
like,
also-
there's some deep cut stuff when it comes to hip hop lingo that I wouldn't use with a casual and then be surprised when they don't get it. You feel me? Like, there's just certain things you're not gonna say. Like if I'm talking to somebody, I'm like, yo, they're trying to catch the fade, and they're like a haircut.
But even it's not everybody that's gonna know a fade is related to a haircut, so they're not even gonna get that. You know what I mean? But even in the other person that he was with, the "why did you buzz me" answer
was about money.
Didn't even match.
No, but it was also about the whole money thing.
It didn't even
like
match.
Remember when he asked for forgiveness? What did she have to forgive?
Yeah,
she had to forgive the guys who weren't ambitious.
Yeah,
and now once again, the whole
that's
this
what.
Dude, they do a bit weird.
Yeah, it's
Isn't
weird.
that weird?
I'm Yaya. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
So, Adrian says the only reason not to date him is the size of his
Apartment?
Apartment.
My apartment is 270 square feet. It's a little small. Bed's a twin, but you know.
You have a bathroom?
Yes, and I have in-unit washer dryer, have a stove, everything.
Wow.
And I have 70 pairs of shoes in there, so.
See, I don't have a problem with him having that apartment in its super small size. Do what you gotta do to survive. You have fucking grills. Throw yourself off a bridge.
What's wrong with grills?
No, there's something wrong with grills. There's something wrong with grills when you have a 275-foot apartment.
There is.
Priorities, my nigga. There's something very wrong with that. You got a Mercedes-Benz, but you can't afford a real studio? No, I would give her reaction. If I meet a girl and she got a Chanel bag, but she live in a fucking bedroom with no bathroom, no.
Rents a room.
Yeah. That's the red flag, not the struggle.
Hi. Quick reminder, we have a Discord. Join it. I'm in there.
With a tongue piercing and she don't suck dick? Yo, that's a fight. Not physically, spiritually.
Hey, watch out. Someone's going to clip this.
Yeah. Spiritual warfare, you know? So, I'm just saying, grills and you live in that 200, I'm going to side with the ladies.
No, if
I don't want to because I'm red pill on the inside, but I'm going to side with the ladies.
No.
Somebody got to be red pill.
If you rocking grills and you can do this in your apartment and you stretched out every wall, wall to wall, and that's that.
Yeah, if you on that Chris Brown, wall to wall. No, that's a good song. I don't see what nothing but ladies call. Okay, I like that song. I'm not gonna lie.
I can see that.
You don't like that song?
It's alright.
You got the vampires. They try to do that thriller shit.
Yeah.
It's not really thriller, but it's kind of
like,
cool.
It was like
wow to wow.
It was kind of a. It was
but ladies calling.
It was kind of a like Backstreet Boys. Backstreet back. All right, but my version. Yeah.
I love it when Chris tried to belt out the vocals, but he really can't. But he trying, and it's not bad.
He got vocals.
I don't see nothing but ladies. I'm like, bro, you can't really hit them notes, but I appreciate the effort though. This shit still fly. Like Chris is a good performer. He's a good music maker.
He got that voice. You think Chris ain't got that voice?
Yeah, he got that voice.
Are you serious?
Yeah, he ain't got that voice. He ain't got that kind of vocal
I think he
range.
got that voice.
Excuse me, sir. I heard you from across the room.
He was not talking to a sir.
Well, listen, I didn't want to misgender you, mispreach.
Fuck is wrong with you, bro?
I don't want to misgender you.
You're looking for a fight.
A fight?
Yeah, a fight.
What do you mean? I said sir, and then you're the one who corrected me so I can say miss.
But the song is not certain. You're not talking to me, and you're not singing that song to me. Right. Pause. Okay? You cannot go talk to me.
I think it's okay to sing to another man as long as it's mainly lyrics. Excuse me, sir. Like, that's fine.
Yeah, because what? You saw me across the room?
I did.
Yo!
What's wrong with seeing somebody across the room? Anyways. Yo, you saw another nigga from across the room? What? Huh? Yeah, I did, so. Why were you staring from that phone?
He's weird. He's weird. He's weird.
Hold up.
It's not me.
Leave a comment below. Fellas, have you guys never seen a dude from across the room?
That is not the question, my guy. That is not the question.
Have you guys never seen a fella from across
that
the
is
room?
that's not the...
Like, have you thought of it?
No, you're not going to do it. You're not going to do that.
Shoo-be-doo-doo-doo. Yay. Girl. Yeah,
nah, dude. He's being a whole ass weirdo right now. That's the question. Not
tell me, ladies, have you seen him? And must have.
Hi, what's your name?
Adrian. Nice to meet
Adrian.
you. What's your name?
Jalian.
It's like alien with a J, right?
Yes.
Probably the first time you heard it, huh?
No, because I tell everyone that.
Oh, really? No, I work at Geico. I'm like a
you're
claims trainer.
Oh, so you could teach me about insurance.
I could teach you about insurance. I know all about insurance.
I want you to teach her about insurance in a sexy voice.
Oh my.
In a
okay.
sexy voice.
Man, you got a scenario. Someone get hit by a car. Now what? Someone call you, hey, someone hit my car.
I think she's crazy. Like, I think this dude's weird, but I think this girl, she give me crazy energy.
What's the next step?
Dang, okay, I'd be like, damn, someone hit your car. I really do.
Yo, that was the opposite of sexy.
It was not it.
That was gonorrhea for the ears.
Oh, wow.
Just don't have a sexy voice.
The laugh, man.
I'm telling you,
beat
bro.
the laugh. You beat the laugh.
Bro. Yo, you know what it is? Is some people don't have a filter between like their brain and their mouth.
and everything just blurs out.
Yeah, and that to me is like the surefire way to know somebody crazy.
Whoa. These motherfuckers are straight pipe.
What you mean straight pipe?
Oh, okay. Straight pipe is whenever you have an engine and you want to have less restriction to your engine. Okay. You remove the catalytic inverter, and it goes straight from the muffler goes from your engine straight out, so you get all the noise. But because it has a muffler, the original muffler, you don't hear that. All right.
Thank you.
But that motherfucker ain't got no muffler on. Yeah. She's not even straight pipe. Is engine out.
Someone doesn't have a job. Is probably. You don't have a job.
Bombo Cleat. Bombo Rascla.
Friends deal breakers. Is someone who doesn't have a job.
Yeah, someone doesn't have a job. Is probably. You don't have a job.
You gotta scream like a gargoyle, my man.
You called her a gargoyle? That's crazy.
But the scream, though.
That's crazy.
Why the fuck you got? That was a dope ass show back in the days. Did you watch that show?
I did watch that.
They're gonna do a live action.
I'm Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, I'm Adrian. Nice to meet you.
I always like to ask people this question. I know it's super random, but would you choose?
That dress is really nice. I don't know what it is. So I think I'm a sucker for dresses. I think I'm a sucker for dresses. A girl could be a 5. She rolling with a dress. She go up to like a 7.
You know what it is?
What is it?
It's when they walk in the ass cheeks go.
It's partially that. It's just something about a dress. It's just elegant.
Oh, there's something about that.
Yeah.
There's something about that.
It's also nice when you ain't got to take off their clothes to fuck them. You just have to hike them up. That shit kind of fire too. There's just something about it like wench. And you be like, fuck. Nice. Fantasies.
Yeah, definitely.
Ignore me.
Most def.
I've actually worn the male version of a dress, whatever they're called. Like in Arabic countries, you know how the males wear the robes, jalabia. I have one of those. And when you're not wearing underwear, them shits is the best. Like, if you've never felt the wind on your balls, I'm serious. Don't laugh. Like, as men, a lot of us don't know that feeling. When you get a breeze go, woo, like that shit hit different. Women get to experience that because they have, well, a lot of them, depending on the dress, they'll still wear some, but a lot of them don't. It's freeing.
Yeah.
Feels amazing.
I know. I used to wear kilts.
It's like, if you've never been bald, you'll never understand what it's like to have the scalp and the wind make contact.
Is the first time
feel
that
like
you shave,
losing your virginity in a different way.
It's the first time that you shave in a long time and you spend like 30 minutes going like this.
Yeah! Yeah! You like, oh, this is me?
This me too?
Yeah!
This me! Oh shit, this me!
I see balding niggas sometimes complain about, I'm like, yo, you get that wind touch though.
Yeah.
That shit hit different. Like, you have someone caressing you all the time. Like, you might not get no cuddles from women, but nature cuddling you be like, baby, it's gonna be okay. We might have taken your hair, but we gonna give you some of this.
Mm-hmm.
That feels nice.
Kind of feels nice.
So all my balding fans who are watching right now,
you good.
You got something in your corner. You got a special experience with nature.
We call that wind therapy.
Yeah. Go outside, just be standing on a fucking bridge, be like this. Do you imagine just like...
Fuck yeah.
Do you imagine just like 40 bald niggas just standing on the bridge like this?
I see it.
And people are like, yo, what is this cult ceremony?
Yes, you can't get it. You don't get it. It's okay if you don't get it. Walk off.
You don't deserve it.
I always like to ask people this question. I know it's super random, but would you choose waffles or pancakes?
Oh, waffles.
Which one you choose?
Shut the fuck up and let me eat.
But which one you have to pick?
I don't have to pick shit. You got waffles, it's gonna be that. It's gonna be pancake, it's gonna be that. I don't care.
But if they have both.
I don't care. What can you make the fastest? That's a nothing question. I don't care.
Really?
I do not.
I'm gonna probably say pancakes. A good pancake is just always gonna be better than a good waffle.
Good.
It's one of them things, especially when you start putting in some chocolate chips and that maple syrup, it just hit different. Waffles, I guess if you like putting weird shit on waffles like chicken, then maybe you like that. But outside of that, I feel like waffles are 100% inferior.
No, I'm whatever.
Who cares what you think? You don't like eggs.
But you asked, so I don't give a fuck either.
Yeah, but it's not like I cared. I just asked. But then you want to be all difficult. So I'm like,
difficult. I don't care.
Yeah, I can tell you don't care.
It's me not being difficult.
Excuse me, sir. I saw you from across.
Oh my days.
I love waffles. Pancakes, I don't know. They're not as fluffy. They don't have the nice fluff to them. I feel like
Pancakes are fluffier than waffles. What are you talking
It's
about?
like I'm not gonna argue over pancakes. Like, no, I'm gonna waste my energy on some other shit.
But you're not a breakfast person like that, so you don't get it.
I'm not a breakfast
Hey, you don't sound
person.
like a breakfast. You don't like eggs. You don't care between pancakes and waffles.
Yeah, I'm just.
You've already killed 90% of breakfast. What's left? Go ahead. Fruits, nigga? Are you a fruits person for veggies? For breakfast?
I'm a whatever person for breakfast.
Then you're not a breakfast person. Yo, breakfast people right now in the chat.
Yeah, breakfast people rally. Shut the fuck up with that shit.
Yeah, breakfast people.
Go in the chat right now.
Yeah.
To the breakfast resort. Like,
Yeah,
nah,
yeah,
B.
yeah, yeah.
Nah,
There's
B.
people
That's yo, breakfast unite. What the fuck are you doing?
How
my
you
guy?
gonna say you
What
like
the
breakfast?
fuck
Nah.
is this?
How you gonna say
That's
you like?
not even a thing.
How do you
my
gonna say
guy.
you like breakfast, but you don't like eggs? You don't care about waffles or pancakes? You're not about it. It's okay. It's okay.
Nobody gives
okay.
a fuck.
It's okay.
Fucking weirdos.
You
arguing
like
over
those non-nerds
breakfast.
who always want to be claiming nerds.
No,
it's not true.
I don't give a shit.
You're too cool.
I just want to eat.
Exactly.
It's not a question. It's not a question about if I just want to eat, and I'm not gonna argue with a person over breakfast and pancake. Eat what you want to eat. I'ma eat.
And I just want to dance, but guess what? Right now we got a job to do.
What?
We got a job to do. So yeah. Yeah.
And you
I just want to dance.
No, and you went, I just want to dance. What the fuck is that?
I just want to dance.
What the fuck is that? My guy, I don't know what's in them bottles over there you've been drinking. Okay, but it's affecting your brain.
Watch it. All right, let's keep on.
Yeah, good.
I feel like the romantic chemistry just isn't there for me.
I feel that for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you.
Yeah, good
It was nice to
meeting
meet
you.
What are you looking for right now, Elizabeth?
Low key.
Low key, not a white dude in grills. I'll be honest with you, not anybody in grills, but especially not a white dude in grills. It looks weird. It's like seeing a white dude in a do-rag. Can you? Yes. Should you?
No.
One tarnation. Sometimes I see a white girl in a kimono, and I'm just like, do you know anything about Japanese? No. I'm like, can you? Sure. Should you? I mean, ni hao,
Whatever.
you know. No.
Did you say ni hao?
Yeah, it's Chinese, but yeah.
Did you say ni hao?
No, I was trying to say no, and I went,
No,
yow.
no.
Yow, you know, like a cat.
Nah.
Yow. Stop calling me out. Leave me alone.
Nah.
Yo.
A husband. I'm at a point in life where I really want to meet someone special to spend life with.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Max.
I'm Elizabeth.
Nice to meet you, Elizabeth.
Good to
I
meet
love
you.
your hair.
Thank you.
It's beautiful. And your
Thanks.
earrings are also really great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Fun fact about Max, he has sold video games to MTV and Nickelodeon.
Like ones that you created?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
in high school,
cool.
I made the Flash games that you'd play in the libraries, and made $10,000 to $14,000
Oh,
my
wow.
junior year. Yeah.
Well, Elizabeth wants to get married. She's ready to settle down, have kids.
Well, I don't want
You-
kids now, but in 4 or 5 years.
Fair.
Yeah.
So, when are you looking to get married, though? That's my question. Is there a specific timeline, or?
I don't want to rush anything.
So no wedding bells next year then, unless it works.
Probably not. That would be a little insane.
I've lit up red a few times. Nobody's pressing me. You two vibing?
Yeah, I'm having fun.
I like you.
I think you're pretty cool.
I'm gonna light up red one more time. If you don't press me, I'm gonna consider it a match.
She stops here because I actually pre-watched this. And then she asks him, pancakes or waffles?
Shut the fuck up.
And his answer, you guys are going to be really disappointed,
It's chicken.
is waffles. She's going to reject him. Why am I spoiling this? Because I don't like you niggas.
It's love. There's gonna be wedding bells
Wedding
inside
bells
of a year.
next
I
year.
predict it. I'm never wrong. You get out of here, you two. you two little lovebirds.
All right. They found love. How'd you feel about today's episode?
Nah, whatever. Just like pancakes and waffles.
And breakfast in general for you, because you don't
Mhm.
care about breakfast.
That's right.
Because you're not a breakfast person. Gotcha.
What did you feel about the episode? Pancakes. That's what he feels.
Honestly, there was a couple of moments where you were kind of driving me crazy, and I just wanted to be like, and I wanted to do that.
That was on a fun moment. You know what I mean?
That was a lot.
That was on a fun thing.
Yeah, that was a lot.
In front of someone you don't know.
Yeah.
Bomba cleat.
They was doing too much.
Nah, that's enough.
All right. Well, anyways, that's it for today's episode. Let's know what you guys think in the comments below.
Shame on them and shame on the shame.
It's like the closest that you can get to is like the Chinese form.
This is Amy Elliott Dunn. In the words of her husband Nick, she's a calculated, murderous psychopath. To the outside world, Amy's the ideal wife, ticking every box a husband could ask for. She's the attractive, supportive, loving wife, all packaged up and ready to be adored. Much to the dismay of her husband Nick, all of these admirable traits have been carefully crafted and manipulated to fabricate Amy's perfect persona. Nick is an unassuming writer and teacher from Missouri. He's an imperfect protagonist on which we can project ourselves, relating to his flaws and shortcomings.
Sometimes he makes choices that sometimes you can understand and empathize with, and then things start to happen. You go, whoa. You know, I'm not sure that I would do that exactly. And he's sometimes obtuse and sometimes astute. And what's interesting about that is that I think the audience is forced to project themselves onto a more honest protagonist, because that's who we really than one that is conveniently manufactured to, sort of reassure us of our own virtue.
To a fault, Nick insists on being forthcoming and polite. On several occasions, this appeasing disposition jeopardizes his public image. Ironically, things start looking up when he abandons the truth in favor of a more carefully crafted appearance. From the start, the couple's relationship is founded on lies and deception. From the first time they met, Amy knew the kind of girl Nick wanted, and finding him attractive and charming, she was willing to try to be that girl. A new version of Amy was born. Cool girl Amy. I'll let her explain what that means.
Nick loved a girl I was pretending to be. Cool girl. Men always use that, don't they? Cool girl is hot. Cool girl is gay. Cool girl is fun. Cool girl never gets angry at her man. She only smiles in a chagrin-loving manner.
You know, she's like a sort of sophisticated machine who can just tune up different elements depending on what's required by the situation. You know, she goes into a sort of hipster party in New York. She's going to suppress certain elements of her personality, tune up other things. She'll say she likes a different type of music. She'll say she's reading a different book than perhaps she is. It's just all the fine tunings, which I think, you know, when Gillian Flynn wrote this book and came up with the notion of the cool girl, which kind of got into everyone's veins and people thought, God, I recognize that, or I've been that at some point, and sure, it fucked up my life for a while, but you know, I've played that game. I've tried to be someone I wasn't in order to attract a mate. And it's not necessarily saying you're creating a lie, you're just skewing your personality in someone else's favor, which ultimately leads you to resent that person because you're not being true to yourself.
Living an insincere life for an extended duration of time, try 5 years, gets exhausting, but Amy has incredible endurance. So long as her partner in crime is willing to play along in this insignificant little game of marriage, she will remain steadfast.
Gillian sets up this couple who sort of, for narcissistic reasons of their own, have slightly shifted their true selves to sort of slot in with who they'd like to be perceived to be by the other
Yeah, the
person.
suggestion is that any couple could be this couple, that it could go this way, and that these tendencies are at the root of marriage, along with all of the love and the purity and that stuff. There's also this underbelly that could be potentially quite toxic.
Nick was glad to do his part at first. To a lesser extent, he too was exaggerating or even fabricating his personality. Inevitably, the excitement of the honeymoon period fades, and devotion to upholding the persona wanes, exacerbated by both spouses losing their jobs, Nick's parents declining in health, and various other stress testers. Turns out, the marriage wasn't as shatterproof as the pair thought. Slowly, resentment creeps in and fills the air that conversation once occupied, and before long, that resentment snowballs into hatred. Before you know it, the facade has been dropped altogether. To punish Nick for not acting the way he should, all Amy has to do is drop the cool girl persona, because on the inside, Amy's true self is cold, narcissistic, controlling, and vengeful. This slip from flawless Hollywood movie marriage into relational turmoil culminates with Nick cheating with one of his students, Andy. He had no idea who his wife truly was or what she was capable of, and he couldn't bear the misery anymore. This should look good as a headline. Catching him red-handed with Andy one snowy night, Amy begins fabricating a master plan to destroy Nick, taking his life in the most socially humiliating way possible. She frames him for her murder, seeking vengeance for the harm he caused her. The plan takes a full year of preparation. If she's going to ruin his life, she's going to be thorough. 7 years of fake diary entries, a faked pregnancy, boosted life insurance, credit card debt, and an elaborate treasure hunt to keep Nick occupied when she disappears. Every scenario thought out, every step perfectly calibrated to irrevocably destroy Nick. And Amy? She'll end up a hero. Just an innocent pregnant woman who escaped the clutches of her lazy, selfish, abusive husband. Gone Girl, directed by David Fincher, was released in 2014 as an adaptation of Gillian Flynn's novel of the same name. Flynn worked closely with Fincher on the screenplay, resulting in a movie that tracks very closely with the source material. The book excels in Nick and Amy's internal monologues, spending more time delving into the complexities of their psyche. Another area where the book excels is Flynn's captivating writing style. Just as a director like Fincher has a very identifiable visual language in his films, Flynn's use of structure and dialogue is unlike anything I've read before. Both Fincher and Flynn are masters of their respective mediums, and it's up to you to determine which telling of the story most resonates with you. I think the cast is incredible in the film, and paired with Fincher's creative vision, it's nearly a perfect work. That said, reading the book forced me to spend more time with the characters over multiple days, and I became engrossed in the story in a way that never could happen over just 2 hours. But enough comparison. On the surface, Gone Girl is a mystery of solving an alleged murder, but at its core, it's a story about a dysfunctional marriage and the motivations that elicit each spouse's actions.
You know, this was a murder mystery, but marriage was the mystery. You know, to solve the murder, you have to solve the marriage and figure out who these two people really were. And that idea, you know, especially in this very media-saturated world, you know, how much are we ever really our true selves?
Nick was not Amy's first victim. In fact, he's the third in line of a series of relationships gone wrong. With each relationship, Amy refines her life-wrecking skills. Nick just happened to be the grand finale. This pattern of increasing severity has to draw its origins somewhere. To explain this, we need to meet the parents, Rand and Mary Beth Elliott. Like their daughter, Amy's parents are writers. Since Amy was a little girl, her parents have converted her life events into a children's book series called Amazing Amy. Amazing Amy did more than just recount Amy's years growing up. It improved upon her shortcomings, crafting the image of a perfect daughter living the perfect life. Her parents inadvertently created an identical twin